Hello and welcome guys. Make yourselves comfortable and enjoy. This is Affinity, Chaos, Chapter 531. Gray and his group got to the arena a little sooner than they previously did. On getting there, the news of one of the previous participants found dead circulated across the place. It was none other than the young man who threatened to kill Gray the previous day. He wasn't found alone. According to reports, some other people were found alongside him, all dead. When Gray and Sylvia entered the arena, they drew a lot of attention because of this matter in particular. Before they could sit down, one of the judges flew towards them, giving off a malicious aura. "What did you do to him?" the judge asked coldly. She was one of the few females amongst the judges. Gray looked at her, a little taken aback. "Sorry, but what are you talking about?" he asked, not sure what the lady was referring to. "Kyle, you killed him, didn't you?" the lady said. "I'm sorry, but who's Kyle?" Gray asked with a confused face. The lady was incensed when she saw this, before sending a powerful pressure with her cultivation base at Gray. But her expression soon changed when she didn't see any form of distress on Gray's face. "Impossible. Even those in the Overlord plane wouldn't be able to neglect my pressure. There must be a treasure with him, a powerful one at that," the lady thought, looking at Gray with evil intentions brewing. "Stop playing dumb." He said those words out of anger. "Yet you sent people to kill him," the lady said. "Oh, you're talking about that guy from yesterday. If I wanted him dead, I would have done it myself. I'm not that shameless to send people after him," Gray said, before taking his seat beside Sylvia, who was already sitting. The lady was about to press further when she suddenly sensed something. She paused, looked at Sylvia before turning around quickly, not daring to stay any further. The confrontation by the lady further increased the discussions in the arena. 30 minutes later, the next round of battles started. Since there were only 100 people left, they did another battle which would see 50 people get eliminated. The battle lasted for about 1 hour 30 minutes, and Gray was the only Origin Plane Elementalist left. Ezra and Jesse were unfortunately defeated by an Elementalist in the third stage of the Overlord plane. With the top 50 confirmed, it was time for the start of the challenge. Just like with the Origin Plane ranking, they would challenge an individual higher than them on the rankings. For the first time in a long time, one of the names in the top 50 was unexpectedly still in the Origin Plane. Gray was surprisingly ranked 50th, even when everyone knew he could get a better rank than this. "Who would you be challenging?" Void asked Gray. "I think the person ranked 30th. Although I want to get this done quickly so we can leave this place. I can't be careless and fight against someone too powerful. If I'm able to get into the top 20, I'll be satisfied," Gray replied. "Okay," Void nodded. "There's also something bothering me. Although she hasn't shown any malice towards me, I still don't know her purpose for staying with me. And why is she so adamant in me getting stronger?" Gray said, throwing a quick glance at Sylvia. He might not show it, but he was still very cautious towards her. She was someone who forcefully entered his life. Although she had been of some help, he wasn't one to trust people he knew nothing about. "Yeah, I think you should ask her after this. Maybe she will give you a reply this time," Void suggested. "I will, but after we leave this place," Gray replied. He wasn't in a hurry to challenge anyone. He planned on seeing the strength of those in the top 30 before picking an opponent. If he feels he is powerful enough, he might even challenge those in the top 20. There's a possibility that he might only challenge a single individual, so he wanted to make sure he made it count. 2 hours later, the rankings had changed drastically within these 2 hours, and people with lower ranks had shot up. The most notable one was none other than the young man with amber hair who fought against Gray the previous day. He had managed to climb from the 15th position to 10th after putting on a solid performance against the previous 10th place genius. Gray was genuinely stunned by the battle. The young man with amber hair was powerful, at least more powerful than what he showed the previous day. There were a few techniques that the young man used that he was certain would give him a difficult time. With everything set in place, Gray decided he would challenge the person ranked 18th. The reason for this was that there's a chance others would advance in their ranks, pushing those above them down. If someone below the top 20 were to defeat the person ranked 17th, then the person would take that spot, while the others would move down by a rank. Most of the people below the top 20 had tried challenging those in the top 20, and only a few managed to improve. Other than a few changes, the The rankings were the same, with almost the same names in the top 20. When Gray stood up, he immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the arena. They were all curious as to who this young genius would want to challenge. Being the only one in the origin plane, he attracted even more attention than the youth who was ranked first. He slowly walked towards the stage, a nonchalant expression on his face. After getting to the arena, he told the supervisor the person he wanted to challenge. The person ranked 18th was a young lady called Catherine. She was a dual elementalist, having both the lightning and earth element. She had been challenged once today, but she obtained a resounding victory, easily defeating her opponent. Chapter 532. Gray stood on the stage as he waited for Catherine to walk onto the stage. Just as she was about to step onto the stage, a young man with a black mask covering his face, leaving only his eyes, walked up to block her. "He's mine," the young man said. "You can do as you wish." Catherine shrugged before turning around. Gray, who was on the stage, saw this and was a little baffled as to why Catherine went back. The young man stepped onto the stage, walking straight in his direction. "I'm Ezel, ranked 16th on the Geniuses rankings. I have a bone to pick with you," he said straightforwardly. "I do not know you, nor have I offended you before, and you're clearly not the one I challenged. I'll be happy if you can head out and let her come on stage," Gray said, pointing at Catherine, who was outside the stage. He didn't know this guy, nor did he care what this guy had in mind to do with him. All he wanted to do was to fight for a spot in the top 20. Before leaving the Acer region, "You killed my brother, and I want to avenge him." Ezel squinted his barely visible eyes before adding, "I challenge you to a deathmatch." This, again. Gray was stumped by his challenge. Since the competition started, he was the only one who had been challenged to a deathmatch twice. He didn't even know what he did to deserve such attention. "You remember now?" Ezel man asked. "That guy from yesterday? If yes, then heads up, I haven't seen him since leaving the arena yesterday. If he was killed by someone, then it must have been as a result of his own stupidity. Go and find out who killed him and stop bothering me," Gray said, not backing down. Technically, he was speaking the truth. Although Sylvia was the one who killed him, he didn't actually witness the crime, nor did he even see him after leaving the arena. "HMPH, you're the one he followed, so you must have a hand in it," Ezel snorted, not willing to believe Gray's words. "You know what? Fine, I accept your challenge," Gray said coldly, an icy aura radiating from him as he said this. The entire arena was abuzz when they saw Ezel stepping on the stage. They were further shocked by his challenge, but Gray accepting it was what crowned it all, making them excited when thinking about the prospect of a blood-boiling match. In contrast to the previous battles, this one would definitely be more exciting, since both fighters would be going for the kill instead of just trying to eliminate their opponents. Gray was a young prodigy who shot to fame a few days ago. Ezel had been known for quite a while now. Even though Ezel was in the third stage of the Overlord plane, no one here was confident he would be able to obtain victory easily. Gray had shown his strength and perseverance when he fought against the young man previously ranked 15th. If Gray could hold his own against him, while also being aware of the happenings around him, then he should have a chance against Ezel. Gray turned to look at the supervisor, as if saying he had changed his opponent to Ezel. The supervisor didn't need any more words before asking if both fighters were ready. After getting confirmation from the duo, he called for the start of the battle. Swoosh! A gust of wind blew across the entire stage as Ezel's figure moved quickly, charging towards Gray. A wind elementalist, he thought internally before wrapping himself with the lightning element. Buzz. Bang. Bam. He also moved quickly towards Ezel, sending out an attack that was easily dodged by his opponent. Ezel countered after dodging, but Gray was also able to dodge his attack. The duo didn't stop, raining lightning quick attacks on each other. Boom. Bam. Bang. A powerful force dragged Gray towards Ezel, before sending him flying. This was one of Ezel's special moves, sucking the air in front of him with the wind element, forcefully pulling his opponent towards him before sending them flying. The reason he didn't allow Gray to get close to him was that he was a little wary of him. Gray landed on the ground, feeling slightly woozy from the force that dragged him towards Ezel, and without wasting any time, he dodged to the sides as some wind blades were sent towards him. Swoosh. Bam. Boom. Gray once again wrapped himself with the lightning element, shooting towards Ezel. This time, he learned from his previous lesson and didn't charge towards him from the front. He sent out fireballs as well as lightning arrows at him to help distract him while he went close. Ezel, seeing this, didn't panic, spreading out his hands. A powerful repelling wind spread out with him at the center. Gray, who was rushing towards him, was once again sent flying by the unexpected wind attack, finding it difficult to retain his footing. Just as his legs were about to touch the ground, he felt a powerful attractive force pulling him towards Ezel. Shit. His control over the wind element is massive, Gray exclaimed. He couldn't deny it, his opponent was well above other wind elementalists he had faced. As his body helplessly shot towards Ezel without his control, he hastily created an inscription behind Ezel. He attacked with the inscription when he was around 20 meters away from Ezel. Ezel sensed the attack, dodging to the side. This made Gray heave a sigh since he was no longer in front of him, but his expression turned when he realized his attack was heading straight towards his moving body, which he still hadn't been able to control. Damn. Bang. The fire attack crashed into his body, stopping it from its rapid movement. Because the attack was from an inscription, and he wasn't in the best of states, it was difficult for him to regain control of it. Chapter 533. Ha ha ha. I never would have thought that you would die from your own sneak attack. Ezel laughed when he witnessed Gray being struck by his attack. The explosion covered the area Gray was located, but he was certain of Gray being hit by the attack, since he saw Gray's figure bouncing heavily off the ground from the impact of it. After a few seconds, the explosion died down, and Gray could be seen standing in the position Ezel was previously standing on. His countenance wasn't the same as before, the mask was broken, his hair was in disarray, and his clothes were ruffled with burn marks on some parts of it. But one noteworthy thing was that he didn't seem to suffer from any burns. Gray's face revealing to the crowd was completely unexpected. Seeing his face, which could almost be described as beautiful, most people didn't think he was the same person from before. A lot of elementalists who wear masks were mainly to hide scars they suffered on their faces. Who in their right minds would want to hide a face like Gray's? It will be a shame that I'll have to kill you now, Ezel said as he walked towards Gray. Kill me? Heh, we're just getting started, Gray said while cracking his knuckles and neck. After doing that, his figure disappeared, appearing almost 50 meters above the platform. Meteor descent, he muttered. Large balls of fire appeared in the sky, spanning across the entire stage, even slightly going over it. Its strength was unbelievable for a wide-scale attack. The large fireballs soon started descending at a fast pace, heading towards the stage. Ezel watched them come towards him with a smile. He couldn't leave the stage, and to be honest, he didn't plan to. Supreme push, he yelled, clamping both hands together. A powerful repelling force, just like when he sent Gray flying, spread out, with him at the center. The fireballs that got close to him were simply pushed back, moving towards Gray. He could not only repel things back, but he could also control the direction he wishes for them to go. Gray moved across the sky, covered in red lightning, as he started shooting lightning bolts at his opponent. Bam, boom, bang. The battle intensified, Gray attacking with multiple elements, while Ezel attacked with his wind element. For an element people mostly use to increase their speed and attack, Ezel took it to a whole new level. His control and use of the wind element was something that was beyond Gray's understanding. For the first time, Gray acknowledged an enemy. Whoosh! Gray was lifted off the ground by the wind, but before Ezel could capitalize on this, he was attacked by two different inscriptions, forcing him back. Even though he had been able to use his control of the wind element to make things extremely difficult for Gray, he had not been able to cause him any major damage, since Gray always had a countermeasure. Once he was in a tight position. The battle had been going on for almost 10 minutes now, and Ezel was starting to feel slightly worried. When he saw Gray's battle with the youth previously ranked 15th, he thought he would be able to handle him since the strength difference between him and that young was not much. It was only after the battle started did he realize Gray didn't really show all his cards. The entire arena was quiet, watching the battle attentively. They couldn't say they weren't shocked by Gray's display. His strength wasn't something someone in the origin plane should possess. Ezra and Jesse looked at each other, dread evident in their eyes. It was only now they understood where Gray's confidence came from when he challenged both of them simultaneously. In front of him, they were nothing but a joke. The crowd was all awed by Gray, not just them, but the judges as well. Even Ezra's teacher didn't have an angry expression like he usually does when Gray was fighting. Gray's performance was stunning, simply stunning. Back on the stage, the battle had hit its peak with attacks flying around from both sides. Both fighters were already slightly injured from being struck by each other's attacks. Unfortunately, no one has been able to get the upper hand yet. Lightning Rain, Gray said internally. Just as the lightning rain started, he slammed both hands on the stage, and water spread across the entire stage. Where he was standing was quickly turned to ice, lifting him off the ground. After getting to a high level, ice shards started appearing beside him as they shot towards Ezel. This sequence of attacks happened within the space of 3 seconds. Ezel, seeing the lightning that was raining down, was about to dodge to the side, but when he felt water below him, he quickly figured out Gray's plan. A gust of wind blew below him as it took him airborne. It was almost like he was being raised by a small tornado, with only his upper body being visible. He escaped from the range of the lightning rain, but was still attacked by the ice shards nonetheless. He set up a windscreen before him, using it to block most of the attacks, while also sending wind blades towards Gray. He didn't aim for Gray. Instead, he aimed for the ice platform Gray was standing on. When Gray felt the ice breaking below him, he couldn't help but smile inside, before jumping towards the center of the lightning rain. That was not all. 2 more inscriptions appeared mid-air, all attacking the location he was about to land on at the same time. Not just that, but ice spikes sprang out from the ground around where he was about to land, leaving only the spot his foot would touch open. His actions stunned Ezel and everyone who was watching the battle. From what he was preparing, even he would find it difficult for him to escape from his attacks, since they were just too much. It was only when his foot was about to touch the wet floor did the expression of everyone in the entire arena changed. Some of the viewers even stood on their feet as they watched the scene unfold before them. Chapter 534. "Oh, this move," one of the judges said when they saw what happened. It was the same move Gray used in eliminating the young man Ezel was avenging. "Switch. This kid is pure evil," Ezra's teacher commented. Just as Gray's leg was about to touch the wet stage, his figure was changed with that of Ezel, who was not expecting this. Ezel was dumbstruck when he saw multiple attacks only a few inches from him, and before he could use his supreme push to send the attacks flying, he was electrocuted by the lightning since he was standing on water. His body was still in the middle of vibrating when the ice spikes around the side stabbed into him, accompanied by the attacks from 4 different inscriptions. His eyes widened as he realized what was happening. This was what he had been defending against since the start of the battle. The memory of how his brother was eliminated was still very fresh on his mind, but after the battle climaxed and Gray didn't use it in any way, he completely forgot about it. He never would have thought that Gray was so cunning to wait till now before using it. Remorse, regret, anguish, sorrow, and a multitude of emotions could be seen in his eyes as the attacks came crashing down, engulfing him. The tornado he created soon disappeared, and Gray could be seen standing perfectly fine at the center. He looked in the direction Ezel was standing on as the attacks exploded. He made sure to make the ice spikes powerful, so that even with this explosion, Ezel's body wouldn't leave that spot. Some seconds later, the explosion died down, and Ezel's figure appeared before everyone. He was currently stabbed by multiple ice spikes on different parts of his body. The spikes had turned red from the blood that was flowing from his body. But the main thing in all this was that Ezel was motionless, eyes wide open. He was still in a standing position, just like when he appeared there. Everyone in the arena looked at the gruesome scene, before turning to look at the creator of the scene, who was watching his masterpiece with a faint smirk on his face. They felt like he had already planned this right from the get-go, but he had to make sure Ezel didn't expect this before he used it. Such a cunning figure. This was one of the descriptions they had of Gray, and it was almost as significant as his monstrous strength. All in all, they had 3 ways to describe Gray if asked to. First of all, he was extremely handsome. Secondly, he was powerful beyond imagination, and the last was his cunning nature. Gray turned to look at the supervisor, waiting for him to announce the results of the battle. But even before the supervisor announced the result, Gray's name on the stone board was rising up quickly, immediately taking up the 16th spot which previously belonged to Ezel. Unlike the previous times, those below him didn't drop by a rank, since Ezel's name was removed from the board. What drew everyone's attention to the board though was that Gray's name was actually inscribed with a different color compared to that of others. It was written with golden letters instead of the usual silver. Gray walked away from the stage just as the supervisor announced the winner. Someone came onto the stage to help remove the body of Ezel. Before Gray left the stage, he dismissed the ice spikes which were keeping the lifeless body standing, and the holes they made on the body, while laid bare for all to see. They could literally see through the holes before the body fell on the ground. Impressive, Sylvia commented with a smile when Gray returned. Gray nodded before taking a seat. Although he wanted to leave quickly, it didn't mean that he would leave without his reward. According to what was said, those in the top 20 will be rewarded. After Gray's battle, only a few more battles occurred before the early stage Overlord Plane Geniuses ranking was rounded up. Now, it was time for those who were in the mid stages of the Overlord Plane. But this had nothing to do with Gray. He received his reward before leaving the arena with some people from the different factions who were hot on his heels trying to recruit him for their respective factions. Even after rejecting them, some didn't give up chasing him with much zeal. It was as if they were told they would be rewarded heavily if they managed to recruit him. Since this was the last city before leaving the region, they would be going through it to the next region. They can't use the teleportation array since they couldn't. According to what Gray knew, only those with powerful backgrounds could use them without being stopped. He asked Sylvia why she couldn't, but he got no reply. To get to the next region, they would have to walk through the city, heading to the back gate. If they didn't want to go through here, they could also go around it. But one has to know that this is a very big city, and there were guards stationed around the city to help fight against people who were trying to come in from the next region. They would still need to cross 3 more regions before they can get to the Polaris region, which was their target. With Sylvia's new plan of making Gray challenge those in the Geniuses rankings of the other regions, their journey would take longer than expected, since they would have to search for whoever he would be fighting against. Gray planned to top the Origin Plane ranking in the rest regions, becoming the #1 person below the Overlord Plane. So in each region, he would be challenging 2 people, the person ranked first in the Origin Plane ranking, and someone in the top 20 in the early stage Overlord Plane ranking. Chapter 535. After leaving the city, in the woods. Can I ask you a question? Gray stopped, looking at Sylvia. Yeah, sure. Sylvia nodded. What are your true intentions? Gray asked. He already decided to ask her after they left the city, so he didn't delay any longer. About. Sylvia raised a brow, staring at Gray. Why are you so adamant about me getting stronger? It's odd if you think about it. You have no connections with me, nor did I help you or anything, so why would you go through the stress of trying to make me stronger? Gray asked, looking at her straight in the eyes. Also, if you were to be in my position, would you trust you? Someone you knew nothing about just picking you up, deciding to train you. He added, guess there's no use keeping you in the dark any longer. Sylvia said before walking towards the tree beside them, sitting below it. Actually, I originally approached you before I had nothing to do, but after you absorbed my lightning attack, I grew interested in you. She began explaining her reason behind wanting to help Gray grow stronger, and just like Gray expected, it wasn't any simple. According to Sylvia, there's a faction her family had an issue with. There's a secret realm that opened at the border of the 2 territories. Since they couldn't decide who had it, they agreed to bring their best genius below 25 years of age. Whoever won would gain ownership of the realm for 10 years. For the past 200 years, they had been losing constantly to this faction. Not to forget, the faction was regarded as the 2nd strongest faction in the entire Aurora continent. It was almost time for the competition for the secret realm once again, and she wanted to bring in someone to break their bad luck in the competition. This was why she traveled out of the middle continent, searching for the right candidates. She had encountered a few people who she had sent to her family for training, and just when she was about to stop her search, she heard of a treasure appearing somewhere in the Gel region. She encountered the Pyro faction leader on her way back after obtaining the treasure. He thought she was weaker than him, so he tried attacking her, Luckily for him, she was in a good mood, hence she refrained from killing him. When she saw Gray absorbing the lightning, she wanted to test out his strength and also see his potential. This was why she allowed him to fight against Clara at the Gell family mansion, and also the reason she was trying to get him to challenge others to quickly boost his strength, since there was just around 2 years left before the competition. Gray stood beside her, surprised for the reason she was trying to make him stronger. He couldn't believe she was actually preparing him for something that important. Why would you put your trust in a total stranger? If I'm not wrong, you should have powerful geniuses in your family, especially since you're actually going against the second most powerful faction in the entire continent. It means you guys aren't weak either. There are definitely people who are more powerful than I am in your family, Gray said. He couldn't understand why she would do something like this when she knew nothing about him. Honestly, there are a few in the origin plane who can achieve what you've achieved in the competitions that you've won in these regions. Sylvia answered honestly. Then why choose me? Gray asked. I have a special feeling about you, and you're different. Not just that, but there's a fire in you that gives me confidence in choosing you. Sylvia replied to the shock of Gray. He did not expect her answer to be something like this. Well, I can't be too sure of that yet. For now, I have a lot of things I need to settle. Putting your challenge as one of them is not something I can say I want to do. There's also the problem of the mark that Necromancer placed on my back. Gray voiced out his thoughts. Although fighting against what was regarded as the second strongest faction in the continent sounded nice, he wouldn't want to make an enemy of them, because he wanted to assist Sylvia. Not just that, but he wasn't confident he could even be of any help, at least with his present strength, that is. I know this isn't something you can just agree to, but let me tell you this. That secret realm was what turned this faction into the second strongest faction in the continent, and if they were to continue using it, it would only be a matter of time before they turned into the strongest faction. Although, there's still the possibility of them using the entire resources there, so we can't be too sure, Sylvia said. Then as for your reward, you can head into the secret realm to train for 2 years. She added, I can't decide if I'll be participating for now. 2 years is still a long time for me. I'll decide when the time comes, Gray said. He couldn't carelessly make such a decision. After all, he knew nothing of the Middle Continent. He had only been in the Eastern Continent and was currently headed towards the Southern Continent to search for Ellis. If things work out, he might even leave immediately he finds him so that he could bring his friends here. All right? I never expected to agree immediately. We'll go our separate ways once you're about to head into the Southern Continent. I still have a lot to do. Sylvia nodded to his words, not feeling surprised by his decision. All right, since we've come to a conclusion with that issue, I want to ask, are you from the Northern Continent? Sylvia asked after a moment of silence. Northern Continent. I've never been there before. Gray shook his head. All right. Sylvia nodded. Looks like he's not from that family. Chapter 536. Gray didn't know why Sylvia asked about the Northern Continent. Since he had already been able to clarify why she was training him, he was satisfied. He still didn't know if he would be able to participate in the competition, and for now, he wasn't thinking about it. There are more important things to worry about, like the mark for example. Because of the mark, he knew staying outside a city would endanger him. Since he was still with Sylvia, he could stay in the woods and train, but as soon as he was alone, he would try his best to always stay in cities. He hadn't been able to create an array that had been able to seal off the aura that the mark released, so he was still worried about it. When Sylvia knew Gray could sense the aura, she was left dumbstruck. This was something that even the head of her family wouldn't be able to sense. And he was at the top of the world when it came to strength, yet Gray, who has had almost zero interactions with necromancers, is able to. Gray just keeps giving her new surprises every day, making her resolve grow stronger in convincing him to participate in the competition. If Gray were to train in that secret realm for 2 years, it was unimaginable how far his strength would grow. They didn't stay in the woods for long since they had a mission. There were still 3 continents before they left the Eastern Continent, and Sylvia not only wanted Gray to fight against the top geniuses, but she also wanted to make sure he broke through to the Overlord plane within this time frame. According to her estimation, it would take them a month to leave the Eastern Continent. The reason their journey was faster was that she decided to carry Gray, flying from one location to another. 3 days later, they located Gray's first opponent in this new region. It was the Elementalist ranked first in the Origin Plane Geniuses rankings. Gray defeated him within 2 minutes, easily taking the top spot. On the tablets region-wide, a new name appeared on the first spot, Gray Dawson, pushing the previous first-place Elementalist to the second spot. When he was done with that challenge, they went to search for his next challenge, the individual ranked 15th in the early stage, Overlord Plane Geniuses rankings. They found the person within a day, and just like before, a new name appeared on the rankings tablet region-wide, and to the shock of everyone, it was the same name as the one who was currently holding the first position in the Origin Plane rankings. After they were done with that, they headed straight for the next region. With the help of Sylvia and teleportation arrays, it took them a little over a week to cross an entire region while searching for the geniuses to fight against. Their speed was shocking to Gray, given how long they used in crossing the Acer region. Within this time period, Gray had been training furiously, literally. Sylvia was putting him through a series of training that even for someone like him who enjoyed training, he almost broke down. The only issue they had was that he had unexpectedly been unable to break through to the Overlord plane, even with Sylvia's help. Gray had also been working on the array, and he hadn't been able to get anything so far, but he had feeling he wasn't far from gaining a breakthrough in his research. They soon entered the next continent, and just like before, their first target was the genius ranked first in the Origin Plane rankings. Unfortunately, the genius went out on an adventure, seeking to break through to the Overlord plane. With the first person not available, Gray opted to discard the positions in the Origin Plane ranking, choosing to challenge someone in the top 20 of the early stage Overlord Plane rankings. This region was above the Gale and Acer region, so the geniuses here were stronger than them. But it didn't stop Gray from challenging the person ranked 15th and winning. The battle was one of the hardest battles he had gone through for a long time, and he couldn't say he didn't enjoy the thrill of it. 12 days later, deep in a forest in the middle of the night, we will enter the Polaris region soon. The geniuses here aren't like those you've been fighting against. Since this is a border region between two continents, it's far stronger compared to the others. Most of the geniuses here have elemental grade above the violet grade, so even those at the peak of the Origin plane would be no pushovers. Sylvia said to Gray, who was sitting cross-legged. Of course, they wouldn't be much of a problem for you, she added. Gray nodded, staring at the sky. Why can't you break through to the Overlord plane? Sylvia suddenly asked. She had been helping him for a while now, but he still hadn't been able to. Gray smiled before looking at her. He shrugged and said, I have no idea. Why are you so nonchalant about it? Sylvia asked, not impressed with his carefree attitude. Since I can't break through now, why mull over it for too long? Gray asked. Sylvia shook her head when she heard his question, deciding to let him be. Gray went deeper into the woods to train after she went to sleep. The next morning, you got stronger, Sylvia exclaimed when Gray came back to their campsite. Oh, why did you say that? Gray asked. Your aura is different from yesterday night. It almost seems like you are in the Overlord plane, but you aren't. Sylvia replied with her hands on her chin. I didn't take note, Gray said. But I still don't understand something. Why are you getting stronger when you've not broken through? Sylvia asked, stumped by what she was seeing. She already thought Gray was very powerful in the Origin plane, and he actually went out for the night to train and got stronger. How could she not be surprised? Gray's lips curved into a smile, but he didn't answer her question. Chapter 537. Gray and Sylvia walked into the first city in the Polaris region with broad strides, especially Void, who was actually walking mid-air. Gray and Sylvia found what he was doing quite remarkable, and when asked, his reply was simple. Lord Cat is awesome. What else matters? Void asked. Sylvia laughed, finding Void's pride to be something funny. After a while, she recalled something. Those in the Overlord plane cannot fly. Why are you able to do so when you're just a rank 5 beast? And why are you able to do so when you're using that attack? She looked at the duo. Void could walk mid-air, which meant he had the ability of flight while still being a rank 5 beast, while Gray could actually stand mid-air whenever he was using the skill Meteor Descent. She initially wanted to ask him about it when she first saw it, but forgot. It was only after seeing Void fly that she remembered it. I have no idea. You can tell that I can't fly yet. Only when I use that move am I able to do it. Gray replied with a raise of his shoulder. What was worth mentioning was that he didn't learn this move from anyone, he created it himself. Of course, he knew there might have been others who had used it before, but he hadn't seen or heard of anyone who used it. I'm awesome, that's enough, Void replied when Sylvia turned her gaze to him. You two should be careful when showing off your skills when I'm gone, especially you, Void. Special magical beasts like you are highly sought after. If anyone were to find out about your treasure sensing ability, even if you explain that it is only treasures beneficial to you, they still won't listen, Sylvia warned. All right. The duo nodded. Fine, let's search for your next challenge. I recruited a young lady from this region a few months ago. I don't know if she's still here, or she has gone to the middle continent. I plan to search for her while we're here, Sylvia said as they walked into the city. The city was bustling with activity, with people walking in and out of it. There were merchants just after the gate that was selling off their products, and people could be seen buying or looking at the items. Sylvia took Gray to the Merchant Guild building. It was the fastest way to get information. After paying a small sum, 1,000 high-grade essence stones to be precise, which almost sent Gray wild, they got the information they were searching for. The genius ranked first was recently crowned, after the previous one broke through to the Overlord plane. The genius was currently on an expedition at a ruin that opened a few days ago. He wasn't the only one who went there. A lot of the geniuses ranked in the top 50 of the geniuses rankings of the Origin plane went as well. The ruin is said to hold an item that helps when breaking through to the Overlord plane. Although it was rare and valuable, it was only of use to those in the Origin plane. Hence it only attracted those in the Origin plane. The few in the Overlord plane who went there were mostly mercenaries, hoping to acquire and sell off the item at an auction, while there were a few who were hired to get the item. Will you head to the ruin, or will you challenge someone in the Overlord plane? Sylvia asked. The ruin will be closing in 3 days' time, correct? Gray asked. The man telling them the information nodded. And it's around the edge of the Polaris region, almost close to when you're leaving the eastern continent, Gray asked. The man nodded again. These were all things he had stated. He didn't understand why Gray was asking him about these things, when he had already told him about them. All right, thank you, Gray said, before turning to Sylvia. I'll challenge someone in the Overlord plane first. Once I'm done with that, I'll head to the ruin. You can leave when I get there. Alright, that's not a bad choice. Who knows, you might need this thing to break through to the Overlord plane, Sylvia said with a sigh. I won't, but it wouldn't hurt having it, Gray replied. Sylvia looked at him, not sure where his confidence was coming from. This was someone who had been trying to break through for a month now. Just because he grew stronger over the night, his confidence had shot over the roof. They asked about the whereabouts of those ranked in the top 20 of the early stage Overlord plane geniuses rankings, and found out he could only challenge the individual ranked 14th, since he was the only one who wasn't out on an expedition. The location of this genius coincidentally aligned with the place Sylvia said she was headed to search for the young lady she recruited. Without any delays, the duo headed straight for the teleportation array. A long-distance teleportation cost too much, so they had to break it down. Of course, this was Gray's idea. He felt spending so much when he could easily use different teleportation arrays that would reduce the price was better. Sylvia didn't complain. It wasn't like she was the one paying. Besides, she preferred traveling by flight. There had been cases where the spatial tunnels crumbled while people were using it. Other than a few times when a space elementalist would be among the group using it, only about 40% of the other people had managed to survive it unscathed. The city they were currently heading to was called Bruges City. It was home to the best Forgemasters family in the entire region. Gray and Sylvia got there within 3 hours, and without delay, they headed straight to the family where the young man ranked 14th was staying. It was none other than the best Forgemasters family. Chapter 538. We're here to see Lucan, Gray said while standing at the gate that led to the Edinburgh family compound. This was the name of the family of Forgemasters. and where the genius ranked 14th was from. Do you have an appointment with him? The guard asked respectfully. He could tell that Gray and Sylvia weren't simple people, so he wasn't foolish enough to annoy or offend them. No, I'm here to challenge him. Gray stated his reason for coming. Okay, I'll send someone to report to the young lord. Please, wait for a few minutes. The guard said, bringing them to a small garden just after entering the compound. Gray and Sylvia followed behind him, surprised by his nature and how he treated them. After a few minutes of waiting, a guard and a youth who looked to be a year younger than Gray could be seen walking towards them. He wore simple clothes, with his long hair tied in a ponytail behind him. His sharp facial features were remarkable. When they got to where Gray and Sylvia were sitting, the young man looked at the duo with curious eyes. I'm Lucan. I believe someone wants to challenge me. But, if I may ask, where's my opponent? Lucan asked. Gray was the only youth here, and given that he was still in the origin plane, he wasn't someone who could fight against him. I'm the one, Gray said, not picking any offense with Lucan's question. Oh, you, an origin plane elementalist? Lucan asked, surprised. It wasn't every day you get to see someone who is in the origin plane, confidently coming to the front of a third stage overlord plane elementalist, someone regarded as a genius for that matter, to challenge them. Yes, I'm the one who came to challenge you. Gray nodded. If I may ask, are you Gray Dawson? Lucan asked, staring at Gray. How did you know? Gray asked, shocked that Lucan knew his complete name. Well, you've been challenging people from each region, and people predicted that you were headed towards this side from your previous battles. Besides, for a new name to pop up and start appearing in almost every region's geniuses rankings, it's bound to attract the attention of the people. Lucan explained. Gray turned to look at Sylvia, and couldn't help but shake his head. Luckily, he wasn't being chased by anyone. So even if people knew his name and where he was headed, it was that bad. However, if he was given the chance, he wouldn't want others to be able to guess where he was headed because of his previous actions. I had no idea, he said. All right, since you're the one, I'll make an exception. The truth is, we have been waiting for you for a while now, but it looks like those morons below me went out to train. This is the only reason you challenged me, right? Lucan asked. Gray nodded. It wasn't like hiding it would change anything anyway. Come with me, Lucan said, walking in the direction of the mansion. Gray and Sylvia followed behind him, with Void looking around curiously. Don't you dare touch any shiny thing, Gray said to Void. Come on, I was only looking at it. How could you be so judgmental? Void complained. I can see your eyes, it speaks of you stealing. Gray looked at Void with narrowed eyes. Sheesh. Give me a break. What do you take me for, a petty thief who steals wherever he goes? Void rolled his eyes. Yes, I do, Gray replied. Of course, this was what he thought of Void. If he weren't here, Void would 100% steal every single shiny thing located in this compound. You know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. I won't speak of obtaining any. Oh shit. I have to collect that even if it means offending these people. Void, who was just about to say he wouldn't see anything that he liked, was blown away by a silver sparkling orb that was hanging just above the door to the mansion. Crap. Gray knew what was about to happen, and instantly turned around to grab onto Void, who was walking on the ground. Unfortunately, he missed. Shit. This cat is going to get me killed. He looked around trying to locate Void. Sylvia and Lucan noticed his weird behavior, and couldn't help but look at him curiously. Lucan didn't take note of Void missing, but Sylvia did. Her expression changed to one of interest. She moved closer to Gray before whispering, "Where's the cat?" Remember his obsession with shiny things? Gray asked, a little dejected. Yeah. Don't tell me he saw something he liked. Sylvia looked surprised. She knew of Void's obsession, but she still didn't know to what extent he would be willing to go to get them. Take a look. Gray used his eyes to point in the direction of the silver orb. Void could be seen floating a few inches away from it, staring at it with shiny eyes. Sylvia giggled when she saw this. They weren't the only ones who had taken note of Void, even Lucan had seen him as well. What's a cat doing there? He asked one of the guards by the door of the mansion. Is that thing valuable? Sylvia asked, pointing at the orb. Not really, just an ornament my sister brought back from an auction. Lucan replied. Can you please sell it to me? You see, my cat has an obsession with shiny things, and as you can see. Gray stepped up to explain. Oh, It's alright, you can take it if you want. Lucan laughed when he realized what was happening. Now he knew the reason behind Gray's sudden strange behavior. Just as he finished speaking, Void hugged the orb, which was almost 3 times his size, and yanked it off the wall. Crack! A crack appeared on the place where the chain holding the orb was previously fixed. I'll fix that, Gray said, scratching his head in embarrassment. Lucan's eyes twitched at the strength of the small cat, but he shrugged it off. It's alright, no need to worry. When he was about to take his next step, he jolted. It was as if he suddenly recalled something. Oh, crap. They are a family of Forge Masters, so there are bound to be countless shiny things in the building. Is anything wrong? Gray asked. With Forge Masters, since your cat. Oh, crap. Gray didn't need him to complete his sentence before he knew where he was headed. Sylvia, on the other hand, burst out laughing, finding the 2 youths' expressions funny. Chapter 539. Alright, no need to worry about Void. He won't see anything that will catch his attention, Sylvia said. Hey, Void, since you've already taken this, you are not allowed to want anything else, Gray said to him. But they're shiny, Void tried to refute. Are they yours? Gray asked. No, Void answered, albeit weakly. Fine, I have my eyes on you. If so much as one thing goes missing, you're toast, Gray threatened. Fine, HMPH. Lord Cat doesn't need their shiny things, Void said angrily. Gray felt a little relaxed after hearing this. He couldn't deny it, Void's love for shiny things was getting a little out of hand. Although he didn't stop him most of the time, it didn't mean he'll allow him to steal from everyone they encountered. He assured Lucan that Void wouldn't take anything before they continued their journey. After going through the first hall in the mansion, they passed through a door that led to the other side of the mansion. A large space was located there. This is where we'll be fighting, Lucan said. Gray nodded before preparing himself. A word of advice. Do not assume that this guy is in the same league as those people you've been fighting with all this while. Although he isn't on the same level as those in the middle continent or the top regions in the eastern continent, he's not too far from it, Sylvia advised Gray while he was preparing. Yeah, I can feel the difference in strength. If I do not push myself to the extreme, there's no way I can win this, Gray replied. Good, Sylvia nodded. This was all that she wanted to see from Gray. Others would feel like since their journey so far has gone without a hitch, then they could defeat anyone. But knowing one's weakness means one can work on it to grow stronger. Are you ready? Lucan asked while walking into the platform that was located in the empty space. Gray nodded, walking towards the platform as well. This was going to be one of his toughest challenges so far, and he wanted to see how powerful the geniuses who were ranked at the top are. After the duo stepped on the platform, they gave their greetings, before exploding out with powerful attacks. Lucan was rumored to be a dual elementalist, having both the fire and earth element. This is something common in a Forge Master's family like this one. Boom. A fire snake was sent towards Gray, blasting into the fireball he sent towards Lucan. Bang! Both attacks collided, causing an explosion. Lucan's attack was able to quickly overpower Gray's, shooting towards him. Gray didn't panic, setting up an ice wall in front of him that the fire snake slammed into. Bam! Crack! Even with the fire snake weakened from Gray's first attack, it still almost destroyed the ice wall, causing cracks to appear all around it. Bang! Boom! Before Gray could reinforce the ice wall, something strong slammed into that, breaking it to pieces. After breaking the ice wall, the item didn't stop there, going straight for Gray, who was only around 2 meters away from where the ice wall was located. Gray did a backflip, dodging the attack. When he looked at the object properly, it was a 1-meter hammer made from the earth element. The hammer didn't stop its attack, continuing to chase after Gray as it tried to strike him down. Gray was fast, making it impossible for it to touch him, but the problem was, he couldn't stay still to attack. He would occasionally send out an attack, but they were easily blocked by Lucan, since they weren't that powerful. Boom! Bang! Whenever Gray was about to escape from the attacks of the hammer, Lucan would attack with the fire element, forcing Gray back to the hammer that was chasing him. I can't go on like this, Gray thought before using the space element to escape from the range of the hammer or Lucan's fire attack. As soon as he freed himself, Meteor, Descent, he appeared mid-air with both hands spread apart. This was the first time he was getting the chance to deal a proper attack since the battle started, and he wanted to make good use of it. Lucan already heard of Gray's space element since he had heard of stories from his previous battles. This was one of the reasons he didn't want to give Gray any chances. An earth wall sprang out from the ground, blocking the attacks that were coming his way. Bang, bam, boom. The attacks continued raging on, but Lucan's defense stayed strong. Gray, seeing this, didn't feel down. He stretched out his right hand and a bolt of lightning started forming on top of it. The concentration of the lightning power was far more powerful than any other one he had done before. Buzz. Swoosh. While the fireballs were still raining down, a single bolt of lightning shot straight at the earth wall that was protecting Lucan. Bam. Crack. Bang. The lightning bolt opened a hole right through the spot where it hit the wall, going straight for Lucan who was behind it. Lucan reacted quickly, using the fire element to block it. But he was pushed back from the after effect of the resulting explosion. The earth wall above him started to fall apart after having its defenses breached by the lightning bolt. Lucan scrambled to dodge the attacks that were raining down on him. He would dodge some while blocking most of them. The attacks soon died down, and Gray's figure shot towards Lucan from the sky. He couldn't afford to give him the chance to start attacking again. Swoosh. Bang. Lucan was already prepared for something like this, attacking Gray from the side. Gray managed to block the attack, but was sent flying from the force. Bang, boom, crash. They continued exchanging moves, with Gray trying to get close to Lucan, and Lucan being able to not only keep him at bay, but also land some powerful blows on him. From the short time the battle had been going on, it was easy to see that Lucan was well above the other geniuses in the Overlord plane that Gray had fought against. Chapter 540. Crash. Boom. Gray's figure crashed into the ground, bouncing off repeatedly after being hit by the giant hammer Lucan made. Fire could be seen running across the body of the hammer, just like what the barbarian Gray saw back at Eagle City when he just came to the Aurora continent made. You see, our family learned the act of combining the earth and fire element from the barbarians. Although it isn't the same thing they do, it is pretty close. Lucan explained as he slowly walked towards where Gray's body was lying. Gray stood up with a little difficulty, his shirt destroyed from the attack, and his mask was nowhere to be seen. Black marks could be seen on his body and his left cheek. Oh, still standing. Guess there's a reason you were able to beat people in the Overlord plane, even when you're still at the peak of the Origin plane, Lucan said before raising his hand, slamming the hammer at Gray once again. Buzz. Swoosh. Red lightning danced across Gray's body as he vanished from the spot, dodging the hammer strike by a few inches, before heading towards Lucan. He appeared a few meters away from him, sending out a powerful lightning and fire orb at him. Lucan hastily raised an earth wall to block the attack. Bang, boom. The orb slammed into the earth wall before exploding, causing cracks to appear on the wall. Swoosh, bam. A flash cut across the wall, made of blue flames. Lucan hurriedly retreated, making sure the light didn't hit him. The wall broke apart, and Gray's figure came to view. On his right hand was a blue flaming sword, and on his left hand was an orb that was made of lightning and fire. Gray moved the instant the wall broke apart, attacking with full force. Lucan didn't stay idle, although he could tell that the current Gray wasn't the same as the one he had gained the upper hand over. He was still confident in his abilities. He grew stronger again. Sylvia, who was watching the battle from the side, explained in shock. The aura she could sense from Gray was more powerful when compared to the one she sensed earlier in the morning, when he came back from his training. What she still found unacceptable was the fact that he was still in the Origin plane. One has to know that the strength Lucan was displaying was far above that of those geniuses from the Gale or Acer region, or any region they had been to before this one. Lucan can easily beat up two of those geniuses in the same stage as himself without even breaking a sweat. Yet, Gray was exchanging moves with him in what almost looked like a deadlock situation. She was both impressed and shocked by what she was seeing. Gray's current speed of growth was shocking. The rate at which Gray's strength had improved from the first she saw him until now was unheard of, especially when looking at the fact that he still hasn't broken through to the Overlord plane yet. Gray's sudden increase in strength made him faster, stronger, and deadlier. Unlike the first time, Lucan was having a hard time keeping him at bay, and the battle had increased in intensity. a seal suddenly appeared across the entire platform that was over 100 cubic meters, and lightning rose up from the ground. This was the array Gray learned from the group who captured the barbarians. He currently infused it with 4 elements. This way, he could manifest them at will, while also gaining the privilege of sending out attacks as well. It works almost like an inscription. With this array, he could also move quickly with the space element, so it would be extremely difficult for Lucan to hit him now. When Lucan saw the seal on the ground, an earth pillar appeared that shot him into the air just before the lightning rose, saving him from the attack. But he wasn't completely away from Gray's scope yet. After all, the array wasn't the only thing that was attacking. Gray appeared in the sky, close to him before sending out a stream of flames. Lucan attacked as well. Boom. The 2 attacks collided, causing an explosion. Gray shot through the explosion, heading straight for Lucan. Lucan, seeing Gray head towards him, didn't panic. Rather, he made a swift movement with his finger, drawing an array mid-air. When Gray saw this, he halted his movement before hastily dodging to his left. Swoosh. Bang. A beam of red light shot out of an array that appeared in front of Lucan, shooting into the sky before exploding. He was from a family that had a long history as forge masters. He was bound to be a great array master as well. Gray created 2 inscriptions while being aided with the array that was on the ground of the platform as well. He continued attacking Lucan with powerful strikes. Lucan blocked the ones he could while also dodging the ones he couldn't. He was also attacking with the beam, trying to shoot down Gray. The commotion the duo caused had attracted the attention of everyone in the mansion, and the platform was currently filled with viewers. Gray and Lucan were oblivious to this fact though, because the battle had entered its most critical stage, with both parties going all out. Well, this couldn't really be counted as going all out for Gray. Swoosh. Boom. Bang. The speed of their attacks increased, and Gray, who was covered in red lightning, could be seen moving quickly across the entire platform. Boom. Bam. Swoosh. Buzz. Attacks continued flying before Gray finally found the opportunity to strike Lucan. Without delay, he shot a lightning arrow towards Lucan, who was busy protecting himself from the fire snake in front of him. By the time Lucan noticed the arrow, it was already too late. He soon came up with a decision. With a step, he moved towards the arrow, which was the only way he could get a chance to edge closer to Gray to deliver an attack. Chapter 541. Pu Kai. The arrow pierced through his left shoulder, but he attacked at the same time as well. Bam. Gray was slammed by the heavy hammer, crashing into the ground once again. Lucan stood still mid-air, looking below him to see if Gray was still able to stand up. His shoulder was feeling numb from the arrow, and he could barely feel his left arm. His expression changed when he didn't see Gray's figure on the ground. Without any delay, he knew Gray must have used the space element to escape at the last minute. Flames soon surrounded him, before exploding out in all directions. Since Gray was trying to attack him covertly, he would use this to bring him out. Boom. An explosion occurred in his left, and he turned to look at Gray, who was standing there, shaking slightly from the previous vicious hammer attack. Blood could be seen coming from the side of his mouth and head. One has to know that Gray's physical body was far above that of others in the origin plane. Even elementalists in the overlord plane didn't come close to him when it came to physical defense. Yet, he wasn't only bleeding from internal injuries, but external as well. This goes to show how powerful the hammer attacks were. Gray was breathing heavily after his sneak attack was blocked by Lucan's quick decision. If only I could use a few more elements or the fusion state, then victory would be guaranteed, he thought with a shake of his head. After this, he knew there was no use in fighting anymore. Although he could still go on, he knew had been defeated. I give up, you win, he said before appearing on the ground of the platform. As soon as his legs touched the ground, it gave way, and he fell on his ground. Luckily, it was in a sitting position. It will take a while before I can get back to top shape again, he muttered while rubbing his shoulder. Lucan breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Gray admitting defeat. He had to admit, he was starting to get worried when he saw how persistent Gray was. Luckily, he noticed that sneak attack, or else he would have been the one defeated today. If you were in the Overlord plane, I'm certain that you wouldn't have any problems with defeating me, he said while getting off the rock he was standing on mid-air. He approached the exhausted Gray, making sure to stand upright. not to give away his tiredness. Yeah, a shame I'm still not there yet, Gray replied while regulating his breathing. Given your talent, it's only a matter of time before your name spreads across the entire continent, Lucan said with a smile. Actually, I wouldn't want that, Gray replied honestly. If not for Sylvia who made him start this challenge, he wouldn't want to be known all around. He had always been one who enjoyed solitude. A life of fame wasn't something he was after. The moment they separate, he'll continue living like he previously did, when he was unknown to many while searching for Ellis. Once he finds Ellis, he would head back to the Azure continent to bring his friends here. After that, he would start his search for his parents, while also trying to get to the peak of the world. When Lucan heard his reply, he was taken aback since he thought Gray was someone who liked the limelight. If not, why would he start challenging geniuses all around, topping the rankings for the origin plane in every region? From the strength Gray showed, there's a huge chance that he could be in the top 20 of the early stages Overlord Plane Geniuses rankings, much less topping the rankings of the origin plane elementalists. If Gray had encountered one of the geniuses ranked 16th to 20th, then he had at least a 60% chance of winning. This was high, given that the genius ranked 15th here could easily stroll into the top 5 in the rankings of regions like the Gal region. Sylvia didn't feel disappointed in Gray's performance, she was amazed. If this was the strength Gray displayed at the previous regions, then he would have been able to sneak into the top 10 in the early stages Overlord Plane rankings. This was something deemed almost impossible for an origin plane elementalist. Lucan's family members were all left astounded by the battle, finding it difficult to accept the fact that the genius of their family found it difficult to defeat a youth who was still in the origin plane. If they didn't witness the battle, they would have been embarrassed if they heard it. Gray wasn't your regular origin plane elementalist, and they could all tell from how winded Lucan was after the fight, even though he was trying to hide it. They could see it. This boy, who is he? An old man with long white beards asked while staring at Gray. If I'm not mistaken, he's the young man who had made a name for himself recently. He had. A man who was in his late 20s stepped forward to tell the old man about Gray's exploit this past month. Oh, such a prodigy. It's a shame he's only still in the origin plane. If he were to break through to the Overlord plane. The old man didn't finish his statement, but everyone knew exactly what he meant. This was a genius that even the top factions in the middle continent would fight to get, and it was no exaggeration. The old man squinted his eyes as he stared in Sylvia's direction. Hello, senior, Sylvia greeted politely. Unlike her previous unruly nature when she was in the Gale region, she knew even though her family is more powerful than the Edinburgh family, this old man was more powerful than she was. Oh, where are you from, young lady? The old man asked. The middle continent, I'm with him, Sylvia replied while pointing at Gray. Oh, no wonder, he's a rare talent. The old man nodded in realization. Now it all seemed to make sense. When he heard Sylvia say she was from the middle continent, he assumed it was the same for Gray. Maybe he couldn't break through, so he decided to travel and challenge others. The old man thought. Chapter 542. Lucan told Gray he could rest at his place until he recovered, which he agreed to. He was too tired to even leave the platform, much less the compound. Their next destination was still a good distance away, and the ruin would stay open for a few more days before it closes. Void was left breathless by the countless shiny things he was seeing. When he spoke with Gray, he referred to the Edinburgh mansion as a shiny heaven. Gray didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard how he described the place. If he wasn't in a hurry, he wouldn't mind staying behind to learn a thing or two about forge mastering. He hadn't been able to practice since he left the Azure continent, and he developed quite an interest in it after leaving the trial land. 5 hours later. Thank you for your kindness, we will be leaving now. Gray bowed to the Edinburgh family who accompanied him to the front door of the mansion. Are you sure you're feeling alright? Lucan couldn't help but ask. Even he hadn't recovered completely, yet Gray, who was more injured than he was, looked fine. He couldn't wrap his head around how Gray was able to recover this quickly, even with a good healing tonic. It should still take a day or two for him to recover. Yeah, my injuries were nothing serious, Gray replied. Alright, you're welcome to visit anytime you are around, Lucan said after getting confirmation from Gray. Thank you, Gray said before turning around. He was currently dressed in blue long sleeves and trousers, and he had taken out another mask. "Oh, before you leave, I have something for your cat." Lucan brought out a shiny large silver plate from his storage ring. "This is a defensive treasure. It can repel the attacks of elementalists below the mid-stages of the Overlord plane," he explained while tossing it to Gray. Before Gray could catch it, Void appeared before him, grabbing onto the silver plate and disappearing with it. The plate was over 6 times his size, but he didn't care as long as it's shiny. It should be heading into his collection. Besides, it was meant for him anyway. Gray shook his head when he saw this and lowered his hand. "Thank you for the gift. I don't have much to offer. You can have this." He didn't want it to seem as if they were freeloading. After all, Void had already collected one shiny orb before this silver plate, and unlike the orb, this was a treasure. Since Lucan was trying to create ties with him, he felt he should also show some effort as well. What he offered them was the healing tonic they obtained from the Blooming Viper. From Ellis's reaction when he used it the last time, he could tell it was also something precious here. Lucan didn't stand on ceremony and accepted the tonic. He was surprised when he knew the value of it. This was not something you get to see every day. What Gray offered was countless times more valuable than the 2 items he gave to Void. "Thank you, and goodbye. I hope we meet again." He waved as Gray and Sylvia walked away from the mansion. While Gray and Sylvia were leaving the mansion, a group of people entered the Polaris region. It was none other than the group who were with the Gale family when Sylvia's family members came searching for her. The young man who was in the lead was sitting on a carriage that was being carried by griffins. According to their movements, they should be headed towards the place where the first person in the origin plane is located. A middle-aged man in the carriage reported to the young man, "Come, ask around to see where this person ranked first is currently located." The young man ordered, "I've already done that, young lord. A ruin opened up some days ago, and the boy ranked first is there." The middle-aged man said, "Good, we're heading there." The young man said, giving off a cold aura, "Young lord, do you think Sylvia's family will let you do as you wish? Since they're also searching for her, they should be there as well." The middle-aged man said, "HMPH. They wouldn't want to fight against us over someone who isn't from their family, and besides, I'm only going to challenge him." The young man said coldly, "You're right." The middle-aged man nodded before walking out of the carriage. HMPH. Does she think she can find anyone who can defeat me? Heh, I'll see just what this candidate of hers has. The young man scoffed coldly. Gray and Sylvia were unaware of the people coming after them. If Sylvia knew, she wouldn't dare to let Gray head out on his own. After the duo left the city, they headed straight for the city, where Sylvia said she would be searching for one of the participants she saw in this region. "We'll be separating here. If you do decide to come, search for the Burchard family. You can find me there," Sylvia said to Gray while handing Void over to him. "The Burchard family, got it." Gray nodded. "Thank you for your help so far." He bowed to her before turning around. "It's all right. I hope we meet sooner than expected," Sylvia said with a smile. "Goodbye." Gray waved before walking away. He was currently headed towards the teleportation array in the city. His current destination was Pain City, the last city in the Polaris region before leaving the eastern continent. Sylvia watched his figure as he disappeared into the busy streets. Gray and Void were once again left alone to travel. This was what the duo preferred, since Gray would get a chance to be free and use whatever elements he wanted without having to hide. Chapter 543. Gray left Sylvia, heading towards the teleportation array. When he got there, he had to wait for some time since some people were using it. It soon got to his turn, and he disappeared with Void. A few kilometers away from Pain City, Gray appeared in a forest. He was already expecting this, so he wasn't surprised. "Void, do you sense anyone around?" he asked while looking around. "No, we can advance," Void replied after a while. But just as they were about to move, Gray paused. Now he was stuck in a dilemma. He didn't know which side to face, since he didn't know where the city was located. Even if he brings out the map now, it would be of no use, since he didn't know his current location. All he knew was that he wasn't far from the city. "We need to find someone, either that or we guess the direction," Gray muttered. "Waiting for someone might take too long," Void said. "You're right, Sigh, at times like this, I wish Klaus was here. He would have used his gut feeling. Although he is not always 100% accurate, it was better than mine. My luck isn't the best. Gray thought of Klaus while thinking of which way to face. They didn't stay long before he finally allowed Void to pick the direction. First off, his luck wasn't good, so who knows what they might encounter if he were the one who made the decision. Secondly, he could blame it on Void for picking a bad direction. Void picked the western direction, so they started walking in that direction. Since they were in a forest, they were bound to be attacked by magical beasts. The beasts weren't too powerful, but they were all in the Overlord plane. Gray used them to practice while trying to improve his battle prowess. He could feel himself growing stronger, and he knew it was a result of the increase in strength when he was battling with Lucan. When he was trying to break through to the Overlord plane with Sylvia's help, he was using the normal method, which was technically the right one, but because he had 7 elements and the orb in his body, he was unable to break through with it. The night he went out to train, he tried using a different method, and it was as if a memory sealed in his head opened up, flooding his consciousness with information. It was just like the time he got the knowledge of the fusion state and chaos orb from the orb in his body. The information he received was on how to break through to the Overlord plane, but it was with a completely different method. Not just that, but before he could break through, he would need to hone his physical body to the peak of the origin plane as well. Without this, it would be impossible for him to break through. He allowed some of the attacks from the beasts to hit his physical body, to strengthen it with the process. It was a dangerous move, but it was one of the fastest ways to increase it. Void was lazing around during the journey, occasionally helping Gray out if the beasts were too many. Of course, Gray could fight against multiple beasts with the help of the space element. He was too bored to watch him fight alone, so he joined him. 4 hours later, the sun had already set, and Gray and Void were currently sitting in a cave. "I'm not sure this is the right direction," Void said. "Yeah, with the distance we've covered, we should have seen the visage of the city by now." Gray nodded. "Don't think about it too much, we'll find a solution in the morning," he added before closing his eyes to cultivate. He still took his comprehension seriously, trying to further improve the elemental grades of his elements. It would be amazing if he could manage to raise the rest to the violet grade before he breaks through. That would send his strength to a whole new level. The next morning, Gray and Void continued their journey, but this time they changed their direction. After walking for almost 2 hours, "Did you notice the sudden increase in strength of the beasts?" Gray asked, with a beast lying dead below his foot. "Yeah, I can also sense people up ahead, lots of people." Void nodded before speaking up. All right, we should continue, but be cautious. We do not know who they are, or what they are doing here," Gray said before they continued moving forward. He sent Void to go ahead of him. Since he was better at hiding his aura from people above the sage plane, it was best he went ahead first. By the time Gray got close to the place, Void had already filled him in on what was happening there. Surprisingly, it was the place where the ruin opened up. The people outside were those waiting for their family's young lords, and missed to come back from the ruin, while more youths were heading into the ruin. According to what Void found out, the greatest treasure has yet to appear, so Gray still had a chance to get it. As long as there were no Overlord Plane elementalists in the ruin, then he naturally had no competition who could challenge him. Gray walked out of the forest confidently without any worries, since he knew he wouldn't be stopped by anyone if he headed towards the ruin. Moreover, he wasn't the only one who was head there. He didn't attract the attention of anyone as he walked out of the forest. Walking straight, he headed into the ruin without a hitch, with Void on his shoulder. Unknown to him, a pair of eyes had been staring at him since he walked out of the forest, heading into the ruin. In the forest, a few meters away from the ruin, the carriage that was carried by griffins could be seen perched on the ground. A middle-aged man soon descended from the sky. "Young Lord, he's here." Chapter 544. Gray ventured into the ruin, quickly maneuvering through the paths. There were a few places with people gathered, but Void said the treasures were trash, and not worth wasting their time, so he didn't head there. They headed straight for their target, which was the treasure that helps Origin Plane elementalists in breaking through to the Overlord Plane. Most of the geniuses here were already waiting there, waiting for when the seal in front of the cave opened. Gray soon got to the place, and from his rough estimate, There were about 30 people seated here. The moment Gray appeared there, he sensed something that made him look in a particular direction. His gaze met with that of a young man who had burly muscles. The young man had brown hair, with black eyes, while wearing a sleeveless shirt that showed his hand muscles. Gray suddenly felt uneasy when their gazes met before he looked away. Void, I don't like that guy, he said to Void. He rarely has these feelings towards people he hasn't seen before. Which one? Void asked. Gray described the young man to him. Oh, that one, avoid him. I have a bad feeling about him, Void said. After hearing Void's words, Gray confirmed his feelings towards the young man. There was a certain look he gave him when their eyes met. He picked a spot and sat down, with Void on the lookout. As time went on, more geniuses came to the place, all waiting for the seal to break. Most of them here knew that they didn't have a chance in obtaining the treasure, but they all felt that there might be a chance to get something else in this cave. Gray was busy comprehending his elements, while Void was trying to see if he could find anything that would interest him. The day soon turned night, and the seal on the cave was weakening as time went on. At this rate, it would break open the next day. The next day, crack! Look, cracks are appearing on it, someone exclaimed while pointing at the seal. Everyone turned their attention to the seal at the same time, discarding whatever they were doing. The cracks continued spreading, and before long, bang! The seal broke to pieces, leaving the cave open for all to go in. The entrance to the cave was small, so everyone had to go in one person at a time. Gray didn't go in immediately, waiting for others to walk in before he did. It didn't take long before everyone walked in, leaving only Gray and the burly youth outside. They exchanged gazes before the young man walked into the cave. Gray narrowed his eyes, but to be on the safer side, he waited outside for a few more minutes before going in. Boom! Gray's figure shot out of the cave, slamming into the wall on the side of the ruin. Why do you have that mark on you? You should speak out now. Either that or I can kill you and make you one of them. The burly youth walked out of the entrance to the cave, two figures walking out from the cave. Necromancer, Gray muttered when he saw the figures. They were corpses. I thought Sylvia said they were rare. How come I've encountered one so soon? He couldn't help but curse at his bad luck. Necromancers who some people wouldn't see throughout their lifetime. He had encountered 2 of them within the short time of 2 months. How could people call that rare? After adding you to their ranks, I can extract the information out of your head, the burly youth said. You can do that? Gray asked, shocked. This was the first time he was hearing about something like this, so he found it quite shocking. The means of these necromancers are outrageous, brutal, but outrageous. Why is that mark placed on you? The youth asked. I was playing with a friend, and he accidentally placed it on me, Gray replied. His words seemed to irritate the youth. This was a mark that would cost the caster their life, yet Gray was saying a friend accidentally placed it on him. Who did he think he was deceiving? The young man didn't speak any further, attacking immediately. The corpse on the right was the first to attack, a wind elementalist in the second stage of the Overlord plane. Its strength was well below Lucan's level, so it wasn't something that could cause him any trouble. Gray dodged the wind blade it sent at him, before attacking with the fire element. The second corpse jumped out, blocking the attack with the earth element. The wind elemental corpse attacked once again, trying to use a cyclone to hold on to Gray. Gray forcefully cut open the cyclone with a fire blade, attacking the young man. The earth elemental corpse stepped in front of the youth, blocking the attack once again. This time, its earth wall was almost broken by the attack. Gray continued attacking, with the youth blocking and countering at the same time. No wonder you were marked. You not only have valuable information, but you're also a genius, the youth commented. Gray didn't say anything, attacking the corpse while bringing out an inscription. Luckily for him, this necromancer was still in the origin plane, so he wasn't too powerful. If he were like the last one, he would have escaped the moment he was attacked. Boom, bang, bam. Their battle continued, and the necromancer soon started to notice that he made a mistake in attacking Gray. Even with 2 corpses, he was obviously no match for him. And he could see that Gray didn't have any plans of letting him escape, since all the escape routes had been blocked by inscriptions. Bam! Gray's attacks broke the earth wall in front of him, sending him flying. When he landed, he sent his corpses towards him before making a run for it. His target was the entrance to the cave. This was his only hope of escaping. Gray smiled, easily capturing the two corpses, since the young man was no longer in sight. I'll study these two for now. Maybe I can get something from it. He nodded before walking into the cave. Chapter 545. Void was currently nowhere to be seen. He followed the young man as he escaped. Gray might have not been able to finish him off when they were fighting, but it didn't mean he would let him escape. There's a good chance that there might be another way out of the cave once he is in. This was something he didn't want. Necromancers are interesting but vile people. He wants to make sure he eliminates anyone he finds. If he could learn a few things from them and remove that stupid mark from his back, then he would be grateful to whoever showed him before killing them. The entrance of the cave extended for over 200 meters, before it slowly started opening up. As he got to this part, he understood why no one came out while he was fighting with the young man. Void, which way? He transmitted his voice over to Void. There are currently 6 paths in front of him, and he didn't want to go on a wild goose chase. Void's ability to locate treasure was something that could help, so why waste it? Take the second path on your right, the treasure is at the end of that path. Also, be careful. There are traps, poisons, and other deadly things on the path. Void reported back quickly. Alright, how's your victim doing? Any luck yet? Gray asked while walking towards the second path on the right. He has still refused to say anything, but so long he doesn't commit suicide, he still has a will to live. I'll see how things go, Void replied. Gray didn't speak any further before going into the path. Void's mission is to obtain the method of removing the mark from the young man, and then killing him. If he refused to say anything, then he would still kill him nonetheless. Keeping such people alive is too risky, especially for an organization that has few people. It might actually cause more harm than good. From the connection Gray had with Void, he sensed that they were on the first path from your left. Seems the young man didn't even think of a target before running in. All he cared about was staying alive. After walking into the path, Gray felt a slight tingling sensation on his leg, but it soon stopped. Strange, he thought to himself. He sent his spiritual sense into his body to check if anything was wrong, but he couldn't sense anything. It was only after he walked a few meters forward did he know what was happening. Poison, he muttered while staring at the corpse of a youth that had black lines running across their body. For some reason, he seemed to be immune to all forms of poison, which is somewhat unexpected. He still hasn't been able to find out the cause, but he felt it had to do with the orb. He continued walking further into the path, seeing 2 more corpses, and a youth that was already on the verge of dying from the poison. When the young man saw Gray, he started pleading with what little strength he had left, tears running down his face. Gray stared at him for a while before shaking his head. Using the healing tonic on someone he didn't know might put him in danger. People tend to act on their greed more than anything else. This was a chance he wasn't willing to test. He continued walking, and after leaving the poison-filled side, he soon started facing trap arrays, elemental attacks, and a few traps that were physical attacks. He dodged every single one of these attacks without breaking a sweat as he continued heading further. After 20 minutes of walking, he entered an open field. In these 20 minutes, Void had reunited with him after killing the Necromancer. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get any information from him. Gray decided to study the corpse before discarding them after leaving this place. And moving around with a corpse felt strange and weird to him. 6 people were already standing on the end of the path, staring at the glowing fruit that was on an 11 meters tall tree. On the tree was a single fruit. All 6 individuals were exchanging glances between each other. When they heard footsteps, they turned to look at the person who just arrived. Gentlemen, lady, as you all know, I'm the person ranked first in the origin plane in this region. There's no way any of you can defeat me. A youth dressed in red stepped forward. The 4 young men and the single lady squinted their gazes when they heard this. The young man in front of them was right. He was the present genius ranked first in the Polaris region for those in the origin plane, so defeating him was something none of them could do alone, especially while they were just around the 7th and 8th stage of the origin plane. When they sensed Gray was also at the peak of the origin plane, they planned to use him to fight against the young man ranked first, before beating him. They simultaneously turned to look at Gray. Whatever plans you have, dump it. I'm a far bigger threat than he is. Gray walked forward, heading towards the young man ranked first. You all can either watch from the side or leave this place. If any of you dare to think of stealing the fruit while we're fighting, then prepare for your death. The young man in red said coldly to the 5 people who stared at the duo. Who are you? He asked when Gray stood in front of him. No one important, all I want is the fruit. Gray replied casually. I like your guts, fine, since you're confident enough to say that even after knowing who I am, I'll entertain you for a while. The young man in red said. Gray smiled, before vanishing from his location. Bam! The sound of flesh hitting flesh reverberated out before the figure of the young man in red was sent flying. Bang! He slammed heavily into the tree, rocking it. The 5 youths who were watching from the side had their mouths wide open than an entire egg could perfectly fit into it. They looked at the young man who was lying below the tree, then back at Gray who had his right hand outstretched in a punching position. Chapter 546. Wow, did he just defeat him with a single punch? The young lady in the group asked while pointing at the young man in red. Seems like it. And he didn't even use any elemental attacks. A young man in the group said. That's incredible. The young lady and the others exclaimed. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. At this moment, they recalled when Gray said he was more dangerous than the youth in red. Are you sure he's still in the origin plane? One of the young men asked, just to be sure. Yes, he is. The same young man who answered the young lady's question nodded. The rest couldn't help but sigh in frustration. They turned around, not even daring to get near the tree. Gray smiled softly before walking towards the tree. His strength was increasing almost daily, and his physical strength was already close to the 8th stage of the origin plane. It was very easy for him to defeat someone at the peak of the origin plane, even if that person is a genius, such as the youth in red. Of course, surprise played an important role in this attack. Gray walked towards the tree before gently plucking it from the tree. The fruit gave off a warmth that made him feel relaxed. Good stuff, he exclaimed before keeping it in his storage ring. He used the water element to wake up the youth in red before turning to leave. What happened? The youth in red asked. Nothing, you lost. Gray shrugged. Just before he walked to the passage, he noticed the tree glowing, before a passage appeared on it. Oh, a quicker way to go out, he said softly before turning around. The youth in red stood still when he heard Gray's words. He couldn't believe he actually lost to a single attack. What was worse was that he was even knocked out. He followed behind Gray, just like the 5 others who also saw the passage. Outside the ruin, just like Gray, the other youths who entered the place were coming out, thanks to the passage that opened up after Gray plucked the fruit. On getting out, they all looked around trying to find out who took the fruit. Gray and the group who entered the same path as he did soon came out of the ruin, standing casually. He looked around casually, before heading towards the forest. There was nothing here for him to do. Just as he was about to step into the woods. Gray Dawson, why the hurry? A voice came from the side. It wasn't loud, but everyone around heard it perfectly. When they heard the name, they all looked around curiously. They had heard of a certain Gray Dawson that was going around challenging people. They couldn't believe the figure came to the ruin. Gray, who paused, continued walking. He pretended as if he wasn't the one the person was talking to. Boom. An explosion occurred in front of Gray, forcing him to stop. Everyone turned to look in the direction, and seeing the youth standing there with a mask on, they all guessed he was the one they were searching for. Gray's expression turned sour. This was one of the reasons he hated fame. He could swear he had not heard this voice before, yet why was the person trying so hard to get his attention? He turned around to look at who was the one who tried to attack him. Looking up, he saw a youth standing gently mid-air. The young man looked to be his age, with white long sleeves and trousers, and a white short hair to match. His eyes were blue. Who are you? Gray asked coldly. Be careful, you're no match for him, Void warned. I know, Gray replied with a frustrated expression. Someone you'll know in the future, was Sylvia. I thought she was with you, the young man asked while looking around. His sharp eyes easily picked up everyone that were here, and there was no sight of Sylvia. Sylvia, could he be from that faction she spoke of? Gray's brain went into overdrive when he heard this. He never thought someone would come after him because he associated himself with Sylvia. She's gone, he replied. He didn't like Sylvia that much because she forced him into challenging those geniuses. But it didn't mean he would tell this guy her location. What if he wanted to kill her? He could tell that those beside the young man weren't people Sylvia could defeat. Oh, a shame, and I wanted her to watch how I defeat one of her candidates, the young man said with a shake of his head. When Gray heard this, he knew full well that he was in trouble. I'm not interested in participating in that competition, Gray said straightforwardly. This was the truth. He might go there, but he was not going to participate in it. It had nothing to do with him. Huh? Sylvia wouldn't waste her time on you if you were not going to participate. Forget it. I'm already here. Since that's the case, I'll leave you alone, the young man said. Gray was about to heave a sigh of relief before he heard the rest of the youth's statement. If you can survive a single attack, the young man added. Gray narrowed his eyes to look at the young man. Not interested. Like I said, I will not take part in the competition. The thing here is this, you don't have a choice, the young man said with an evil grin. Buzz. Swoosh. As soon as he finished his statement, he attacked. He was a lightning elementalist. The lightning bolt moved so fast that Gray was unable to keep up with the movement. Without even thinking, he used the space element to teleport to another location. Oh, you managed to survive, the young man said with a smile on his face. Gray stood in another position. On his chest, a small 2 inches hole could be seen. People could literally see the other side through the hole. Blood soon started to gush out of it, staining Gray's blue shirt down to his trouser. On the side of his mouth, blood was dripping from both sides. Even with his quick reaction, he was still unable to dodge the attack. Luckily, he moved quickly so it missed his heart. Chapter 547. Gray looked at the young man with cold eyes. He did his best to keep his situation stable, not trying to do anything rash. Since you survived, I'll keep to my words. You can leave, the young man said arrogantly. Gray didn't say a word. Turning around immediately, the young man finished his words. Just before he walked into the forest, he turned to take a proper look at the face of the young man, edging his appearance in his head. This was something he would never let go of. The young man watched as Gray walked away. One of the men beside him came close to him. Young lord, you shouldn't have let him go. He's not someone worth mentioning. Since he survived, it's his luck, the young man said before turning around. He left along with his group. The crowd who were outside the ruin watched as the entire event played out. Those who were in the same place as Gray were all stunned when they saw he couldn't even evade the attack of the young man, especially the young man in red, who was ranked first in the Origin Plane rankings. He couldn't stand a single blow from Gray. Yet Gray couldn't stand a blow from this young man. While they were all looking, discussing the event which just took place, one of the young men who was in the same cave as Gray had sneaked away, rushing towards Gray's direction with greed evident in his eyes. In the forest, a shadow could be seen dashing through the woods. This is my chance. He's already weak from that attack, the young man muttered while licking his lips. An opportunity presented itself before him. Of course he was going to take it. While running through the forest, he followed the slight trail of blood, heading towards where it led. Further into the forest, Gray was running as fast as he could, trying to get to a place he felt was safe enough before he started healing. He had been trying to stop the bleeding, but whenever his essence goes close to the injury, it seems to increase the damage done to it. His face was already pale, even his body was starting to show signs of lack of blood. Presently, all his hopes are placed on the healing tonic he got from the blooming viper. Someone's following you, Void said, his expression one of seriousness. Strength level? Gray asked. He could barely speak. Luckily, he didn't need to speak out when communicating with Void. One of those people we met at the cave, Void replied. Gray's initial thought went to the young man he defeated with a single punch, but he quickly threw it to the back of his head. This wasn't the time to think about it. I don't know the reason they're coming after me. You'll deal with it when the time comes. If it's for a stupid reason, then you can do as you please, he said. Void nodded before focusing on the journey in front of them. After around 5 minutes, they soon found a cave. Gray didn't even try to set up a protective array. He didn't have such leisure time. He was losing more blood as time went on, and his vision was already blurry. While he was running here, he had coughed up several mouthfuls of blood. After sitting down, he brought out the vial containing the tonic, gulping the entire thing down instantly. He shut his eyes and focused on healing. A few seconds after he gulped down the tonic, the bleeding stopped. Void lay at the entrance of the cave keeping watch. A few minutes later, Void heard a rustling sound in the trees. Looking up, he saw the figure of a young man dashing towards the cave. Due to Void's small body, the young man missed him, heading straight into the cave, going towards Gray. "You're injured. If you know what's good for you, hand over the fruit," he said as soon as he saw Gray. His request was met with silence from Gray. He didn't even open his eyes to look at the person speaking. The young man was slightly irritated by this behavior. "Guess I'll have to take it myself." The young man smiled as he approached Gray. He stretched his hand in Gray's direction, hoping to collect his spatial ring. "Huh," he exclaimed in confusion. No matter how much he stretched his hand, it didn't seem to get to the target. When he looked at his hand, his face changed drastically. The only part that was visible in his outstretched right hand was from the elbow up. The rest seemed to have disappeared into thin air. The young man hurriedly withdrew his hand, but the result was the same. "Hey!" He was about to scream when Void's small paws covered his mouth. "Don't shout, you'll disturb him. Now, let's go outside," Void said. The young man was taken out of the cave against his will, his voice never heard again. Void soon appeared back in the cave as if nothing happened. 4 hours later, splat. Gray spat out a mouthful of blood before opening his eyes. His previously pale face had regained its color, the same as his skin. "Are you all right now?" Void asked. Gray nodded, staring at his bloodied shirt. He stood up before changing to something else. His eyes were cold. It was as if he was still experiencing what happened some hours ago. Void told him about the young man who came in. He naturally killed him, although he could tell that the young man didn't have any plans of killing Gray. He wasn't as compassionate as humans. To him, an enemy should be killed, and anyone who tries to steal from him while he's down is an enemy. "In 2 years, I'll repay this favor," Gray said slowly. Before walking into the forest, his lonely silhouette looked sturdy, just like a rock. Void knew Gray was definitely going to take his revenge, but he never expected him to set a deadline for himself. The young man who attacked him was already at the peak of the Overlord plane, and Gray seems to be older than he is. This showed how powerful and talented he is. There's no telling how far he would have grown in 2 years. But Void was certain of one thing: Gray would be stronger than him by then. Chapter 548. 3 months later, Southern Continent, Monster City. At the city gates, a young man could be seen walking out of the city. Some black patches were on his face, and he looked like he hadn't rested for weeks now. "Damn it, those stupid elders. I can't even rest properly before they send me out again. Sigh, if only father wasn't ill." The young man complained under his breath continuously as he walked outside the city. The crowd stared at him, with some speaking about him, while the others minding their businesses. "Isn't that the son of the O'Brien family? Why is he looking so haggard?" a young lady asked. "I heard his father, the current head of the family, is very ill." The elders didn't want to make it obvious that they wanted him out of the family. So this happened mission after mission, and from what I heard, the mission increases in difficulty whenever he successfully completes one, a young man explained. "That's sad, he used to be very vibrant." The young lady shook her head in pity, while staring at the sad and lonely back view of the sorry figure who was walking out of the city. This person was none other than Ellis. After coming back from the Azure continent, he found out things weren't as they were when he left. His father was ill, and the elders had taken control of the family. They initially thought he was dead, but when they saw him returning out of nowhere, they were left with no choice but to think of something else. The reason for this was simple: amongst all the children of his generation in the family, he was the most talented. His growth speed was on another level when compared to others, so he had been the one tipped to get the position as next in line to be the family head. His disappearance was like a blessing to the others, and some had even started planning with their fathers who were part of the elders. While walking with his head down, Ellis soon disappeared into the crowd that was headed towards the forest. Unknown to him, a pair of eyes were looking at him with interest. After 3 months of constant traveling, and literally exhausting his savings, he finally got to the city where the O'Brien family stayed. He had been here for about a week now, and his cautious personality didn't allow him to head straight to the O'Brien mansion, and he was grateful he didn't. When he got here, he started asking about the O'Brien family, and the news he got left him worried for his once jovial friend. Gray soon blended into the crowd and disappeared. In the forest, Ellis brought out a map. Looking at the spot that was marked, there were 3 spots, and each represented a location he would have to head to. These were places that had notorious criminals around Monster City, and some of them were even more powerful than he was. I should get to work. I'll take as much time as I can before returning. He kept the map before adding with a depreciating smile, if I don't die. Just as he was about to continue walking forward, he paused before looking around. Swoosh, boom. Ice spikes sprang out of the ground in Ellis's north as a figure jumped out of the woods. We haven't seen each other for over half a year, and this is how you welcome me. Gray's voice traveled into the ears of Ellis, who was about to attack again. Huh, who? Ellis paused before looking at the figure in front of him properly. Gray, he asked curiously. Gray still had his mask on, and he's been so tired lately that he forgot a few things about the friend he made in the Azure continent. Actually, because of his father's condition, he hadn't been social lately. Who else? I can see you're having a rough time once again, Gray said before taking off his mask. It's really you. I never thought you'd be able to come this quickly, Ellis exclaimed before hugging Gray. When Gray heard his feminine voice once again, he couldn't help but smile unconsciously. He had always found it funny. Why is your communication device not with you? Gray asked while taking out the orb Ellis gave to him back at the magical beast's forest. Oh, that? I've been too busy to care about it. It's buried somewhere under a pile of other things in my ring, Ellis replied while letting go of Gray and giving out a genuine smile. Huh, why are you still at the peak of the origin plane? He asked when he sensed Gray's cultivation stage. He thought Gray would have at least broken through to the Overlord plane by now. Never in a million years did he think he would still be in the same stage. Long story, had some difficulties, but I've sorted it out, Gray replied. Oh, okay, but it's weird seeing someone as old as you are still in the origin plane. Well, in lower regions, it's not that rare though, Ellis said while rubbing his chin. Have you been able to find that thing you were searching for? He suddenly recalled the reason Gray sent him to journey across the magical beast's forest tirelessly. I didn't need it anymore, Gray replied. He didn't think Ellis would still recall the soothing liquid he was searching for to help heal Void. This is Void, he was the reason I was looking for that liquid. He pointed at Void who was lying on his head. Oh, a cat. Wow, it's already a late-stage rank 5 magical beast, amazing. He must have a high bloodline given how small he is, Ellis exclaimed when he saw Void's cultivation stage. Of course. Did you take me for those petty house and street cats? Void asked with disdain when he spoke of other cats. He can talk. Ellis was once again surprised by the cat that accompanied Gray. Yes, he's different, Gray nodded. I can tell, Ellis replied while studying Void. Chapter 549. Gray and Ellis stayed in the forest talking about their experiences. Well, it was mainly Ellis who did the talking while Gray listened. He found out about Ellis's father's health, and how the elders had been trying to get rid of him. How come he hasn't been healed yet? Don't you guys have better healing tonics? Gray couldn't help but ask. Nothing worked. We still don't understand what's happening to him. I do not think it's something physical. If my guess is right, it has to do with a foreign essence that invaded his body some time back, Ellis replied. Your guess? Gray raised a brow. All right, fine. The Grand Elder brought some people who did a thorough checkup. According to what was found, a foreign essence is causing havoc in his body. They've tried everything they could, but to no avail, Ellis said truthfully. Is there a way I can see him? Gray suddenly asked after a moment of silence. Ellis placed his hand on his chin. Difficult, but I can try. But I can't guarantee we will be given such a chance, even if it's only a few minutes. Gray tried persuading. Since it has to do with a foreign essence invading Ellis's father's body, then he might be able to help with the chaos orb that's inside him. It seems to have a special power against other essences. The only thing that got him thinking is that he had never been able to control it, which means he wasn't sure it would be able to help. Nevertheless, it was worth trying. I'll try, Ellis replied. He suddenly paused, as if finally realizing what Gray was getting at before asking in shock. Wait, there's a way you can help. Technically, it should be able to help, but I'm not too sure yet. We'll have to wait until then, Gray replied honestly. He couldn't lie to Ellis. After all, this had to do with his father's life. If truly you can help, I'll be forever grateful, Ellis said seriously. It's nothing. I'm only helping out a friend. And we still haven't been able to confirm it yet, so no need for all this. Gray patted Ellis on his right shoulder. Ellis nodded before turning around. So, where are we headed? Gray asked. Ellis was on a mission before he stopped him. Since he's already here, he would naturally follow him on the mission. I'm heading over to clear out a group of bandits from the canyons. They aren't too powerful, but their numbers will surely be a bother. Ellis explained. He looked at Gray before adding, if only you had broken through to the Overlord plane, then you would have been of some use. Void can help, so there's no need to worry too much. Gray didn't find his words offensive. Other than Void, no one else knew the current extent of his strength. He rarely got into battle since being attacked by that young man who was after Sylvia. All right, let's get going then. Ellis nodded before taking the duo with him. He briefed them about the canyon as well as the bandits. The leader was in the Sage Plain, just like Ellis. Gray had always had the notion that Ellis wasn't in the Overlord plane, and finding out from his mouth was still a little shocking. Even his teacher wasn't in the Sage Plane. Just how powerful are those at the peak of this world? The rest of the members were Origin and Overlord plane elementalists. Most of them were around the mid-stages of the Overlord plane. There were around over 100 people in this group, and for a single person to take all of them on wasn't going to be easy. If Ellis manages to instantly kill the leader, then it would all be settled. But if not, he would find it difficult with all the disturbance the others can cause. Cyan Canyon. Alright, according to reports, the bandit group stays around here. All we need to do is find their hideout before. Found it? Void interrupted Ellis's speech. What did you find? Ellis asked. The bandits' hideout? You were speaking of locating it. Well, I have, Void replied proudly. Ellis was a little short of words, never expecting that they would be able to find the hideout so quickly. What he found more surprising was how quickly it took for Void to locate them. He secretly tried to see if he could sense anything, but he found nothing. He couldn't help but look at Void doubtfully. You don't have to worry about it. He's always right when it comes to things like this, just follow his lead. Gray reassured when he saw Ellis's doubtful expression. Void was about to complain when he noticed Ellis was doubting his skills, but Gray, already knowing Void's personality, closed his mouth, making sure he didn't make a sound. This didn't stop Void from trying though, leaving a series of muffled noises. A few minutes later, which way? Ellis asked. Right, Void replied, still a little sulky. Ellis nodded, before heading towards the right path in the canyon. The canyon was a series of maze-like paths. This was why it has always been hard to deal with these bandits. They've been accustomed to the road here, so escaping has always been easy for them whenever they're cornered. Do the items we find there belong to us? Gray asked. Since they were going to clear out a bandit hideout, there are bound to be treasures. Of course. Whatever we find is ours, Ellis replied, before turning to ask Void for directions once again. They continued heading deeper into the canyon while going in the northwest direction. This was the area Void said the bandits were located. As they headed deeper into the canyon, Ellis found it hard to believe that Void's senses could spread this far. It wasn't his fault though. Since entering the canyon, they've already walked over 1 kilometer, and still haven't located the bandits. This distance was one thing, while being able to sense the bandits, even with the caution they took, was another. This cat truly is different, he recalled the words Gray said while they were still in the forest. Chapter 550. Here, Void said abruptly, stopping the group in their tracks. Ellis looked around. He still hadn't been able to sense any aura of people being here. Are you sure? He couldn't help but ask. Gray squatted, placing his hand on the ground, trying to use the earth element to sense if anyone was here through the vibrations he got from the ground. They're here, he answered before Void could. Ellis turned to look at Gray, and before he could ask any more questions, Gray added, and they're not the only things here. Powerful magical beasts are lurking around. There's a large array here that's hiding their track. This must have been done by the bandits, but they unknowingly made this place a great hunting ground for this beast. Actually, the beast is theirs as well, Ellis said. Oh, guess they plan on using it to sense if people are nearby, cause it's coming our way, Gray said before standing upright. He looked towards his right. Within a few seconds, the ground started shaking, and they could feel something large was moving quickly through the ground. How powerful? Gray asked Void secretly. Not that strong, Early mid-stage rank 5 magical beast. Void replied quickly. The beast isn't too powerful. We should deal with it quickly before the bandits escape. They should have already been alerted of our presence since the beast is coming towards us. Gray replied. Rumble. The ground continued shaking vigorously before a giant centipede burst out of the ground. After coming out, the centipede screeched loudly, with a sticky substance coming out of its mouth towards where Gray and Ellis were standing. The duo dodged to the side, not daring to allow it to touch them. The thing wasn't toxic or anything, it just looked irritating. After moving to the side, Gray got a proper look at the beast. The centipede was over 12 meters long, with 2 long antennae in front of its face that was over a meter long, and a pair of large pincers below the antennae that stuck out from its mouth. A seat was strapped on top of its head, and a figure covered by a cloak could be seen on top of it, seemingly riding the centipede. Gray moved quickly, vanishing from his previous location. The person riding the centipede was only in the 3rd stage of the Overlord plane, something he could handle easily with his current strength. Over the past 3 months since he was attacked by that young man, his strength had grown significantly. It's already at a stage where he felt if he went back to fight against Lucan, he would have at least a 65% chance of winning. Not just that, but his physical strength was already almost at the peak of the origin plane. He appeared in front of the figure riding the centipede, and before the person could bring out a device to communicate with the other bandits, he suddenly paused, before looking down. On his chest, a large fist-sized hole could be seen there. The spot where his heart was located is currently empty. Gray was standing in front of him, an indifferent look on his face. Blood started dripping from the side of the bandit's mouth. He tried talking, but he was unfortunately unable to. He let go of the reins he used in holding the centipede, before falling to the ground. Gray stood at the top of the centipede, looking around. Ellis soon appeared close to him. Well, that was quick. I've always known you're stronger than what your cultivation level tells. But isn't this a tad too scary? Gray smiled with a shake of the head, not replying to Ellis's question. What now? Well, since you've effortlessly killed that guy, why don't we take this thing on a ride back? This way, it would not only bring us there, but the bandits would let their guard down, thinking it's the person that came out. Ellis suggested. Gray nodded, before grabbing the reins. Since they were going to ride it, he should be the one too, since technically, Ellis could fly. 600 meters away from where Ellis and Gray took hold of the centipede, deep in the canyons, large spaces had been carved out inside the canyon walls by the bandits. The place was large enough for over 1,000 people to stay inside. The bandits could be seen partying after making a windfall from their latest robbery. Drinks were all over the place, with half-naked ladies as well. A middle-aged man with a snake tattoo above his right eye could be seen sitting on the main seat in the hall, while the others were seated across the tables in the hall. Drink, my brothers, he said while gobbling the wine in his silver chalice down his throat, with some coming out from the side of his mouth dripping on his clothes. The crowd cheered before doing the same, all drinking in pleasure. While they were drinking, rumble. The ground soon started vibrating. Looks like it was nothing serious. Ezel is back already. One of the people in the hall laughed out loud as he heard the rumbling sound caused by the centipede. A hole soon appeared and the centipede came into view. But the man with a snake tattoo soon realized something was wrong when he sensed the aura of 2 people instead of 1. Who are you? And how dare you intrude into our private grounds? He yelled angrily while standing up from his seat. He stamped his foot on the ground, causing the entire place to shake. You're the leader? Ellis asked with a serious voice. Gray was left a little shocked because Ellis just made his voice sound like that of a guy. This was the first time he was hearing him speak like this. Guess this is how he speaks when taking things seriously, he thought while looking around. Since the leader of the bandits was in the Sage Plane, it meant he and Void had to deal with the others. Of course, he couldn't deal with those in the late stages of the Overlord plane yet, but luckily, Void could. The only problem here was that there were at least 200 people here. That was if he even removed the half-naked ladies. How the hell are we going to deal with this many people? He couldn't help but complain slightly. Thinking that Ellis's family members sent him here, he felt a tinge of pity for him. Chapter 551. Try to stall them. I'll deal with the leader as quickly as I can, Ellis said before taking flight, heading towards the leader of the bandits. Gray stared at the heads in front of him. He couldn't deny it. They were too many for him to handle. Luckily, he had Void and the centipede. The reason they were able to control the centipede easily was Void's doing. For some reason, it listened to everything Void commanded it to do. Void, it's time to work your magic. With this thing's help, I should be able to at least deal with them for some time. But you're in charge of all the late-stage elementalists, Grey said to Void. All right, Lord Cat will help you out. But if there are any shiny things in our loot, I want first picks. Void tried to negotiate a deal. Just get to work. Grey didn't even think about his deal. Void grumbled before jumping to the front of the centipede. Help us kill these guys, okay? The centipede nodded docilely. After Ellis went after the leader of the bandits, the rest turned to look at Grey, seemingly waiting for what he wanted to do. There were over 20 late-stage Overlord Plane elementalists here, and 5 or so that were at the peak of the Overlord Plane. Grey was only at the peak of the Origin Plane, while the centipede was a mid-stage rank 5 magical beast. There was no way they could even defeat a regular early-stage Overlord Plane elementalist in the bandit group, much less all of them. They couldn't sense Void's stage, so they didn't count him amongst their opponents. On seeing the centipede behave in such a docile manner towards Void, they found it a little strange, but ultimately didn't think much of it. Boom, rumble. A large explosion and heavy shaking caught the attention of everyone here. Looking in the direction Ellis and the bandit leader faced, they realized they had already started their battle, and from the first attack, they could see that their leader was on the back foot. You fools, what are you doing? Come here and help me take this brat down. The bandit leader hollered when he noticed the young man in front of him was stronger than he was. One of the men at the peak of the Overlord Plane ordered, "You two, kill this brat and that stupid animal, the rest of you, with me." After giving out the order, the man charged in the direction of their leader. Of the 2 men he sent after Grey, one was in the late stage, while the other was in the mid stages. Void. Grey called out to Void. On it, Void replied before disappearing. Grey acted as if he didn't see the 2 men walking towards him. He stood on the head of the centipede, spreading both hands in the sky, with his eyes closed in total concentration. When he opened them, they glowed with a mesmerizing pattern on them before inscriptions started to appear mid-air. Swoosh, bang, boom, bam. He attacked fiercely, making sure to stop the group in their tracks before they went after Ellis. The man at the peak of the Overlord Plane paused when he saw this attack. He turned around to look at the person who caused it, and seeing Grey's body language, he knew he was the one. "Why's the brat still alive?" he asked coldly while looking around, trying to find the duo he sent to kill him. His expression changed when he saw them lying in a pool of blood. What terrified him was that he didn't sense any attack, yet the duo was killed silently in the presence of so many people. "Stay on guard, someone powerful is with the boy," he ordered while stopping his advances towards Ellis. When Grey heard his words, he was a little taken aback, but he felt this was the best outcome. First, they wouldn't go after Ellis because of the fear of someone powerful killing them off. This would in turn give Ellis all the time he needed to kill the leader before coming after them. Boom, rumble. The place continued shaking from the attacks of Ellis and the bandit leader. When they looked in that direction, they saw their leader sent flying, crashing deep into the walls. "Come, we must help him," the man at the peak of the Overlord Plane ordered once again. He couldn't sit by and watch as their leader was about to be killed. He knew they would be next if he dies. Although there was a risk to turning their backs against a potentially powerful opponent who was hiding, they just couldn't sit still. Grey attacked with the inscriptions once again, but the attacks were blocked by the men. They hurried forward trying to distract Ellis. Seeing how things were playing out, Void and Grey started attacking ferociously. They couldn't allow these guys to disturb Ellis. Grey, riding the centipede, charged into the crowd of people. He made sure the area he faced was occupied by those in the mid stages and below. Void, on the other hand, started to pick out those in the late stages one by one. Whenever he appeared, he would kill his unsuspecting victim. Those at the peak of the Overlord Plane soon realized what was happening, before quickly spreading out and informing the others about the space elementalist that was attacking them. They still had no idea that a cat was what had been killing their members. 3 of the bandits at the peak of the Overlord Plane took some bandits with them while heading towards Ellis, while the remaining 2 stayed behind, accompanied by almost 200 bandits in the Overlord Plane. A brawl soon started, with a youth, a cat, and a centipede fighting against a large crowd. The arrival of helpers balanced things on the side of the bandit leader and Ellis. Swoosh, boom, bang. Attacks were flying around, with the ladies in the hall all running out for safety. Chapter 552. Swoosh, boom, bang. Gray's continuous attacks almost always hit one of the bandits. Unlike the bandits, he had no reservations when attacking, so he attacked wildly, making sure he didn't give them the chance to get close to him. Void, stop those guys interfering with Ellis' battle, he said after taking a peek at the battle happening on Ellis' side. Got it. Boom, bang. The battle on Ellis's side raged on, with Ellis having to defend against attacks from different angles. In contrast to Gray's ability with inscriptions, which made it easy for him to take on multiple opponents without being too much at a disadvantage, Ellis had to rely solely on his element. Being a water elementalist gives him fluidity with his attacks and incredible defensive prowess. Thanks to the ice ability of water elementalists, Ellis was starting to have a difficult time defending, but he knew he couldn't complain. Since Gray's opponents were just too many, there's no way he would be able to stop them all. All he could do right now was hang out while taking out any of the bandits when the chance arises. Bam! Thud! One of the bandits at the peak of the Overlord plane was suddenly sent flying, crashing into the wall before falling on the ground, dead. A hole could be seen on his forehead. The bandit leader looked around hastily, trying to figure out how one of his best fighters was killed in front of him. But even after looking around, he still wasn't able to figure out how it happened. Ellis was excited when he saw this. He knew it was Void's handiwork. The sudden death of the bandit made the others hesitate. No one wanted to die, especially to someone they couldn't locate. Because of this, they weren't able to give their all in the battle, because they were reserving some energy in case of a sneak attack from whoever it was. On Gray's side of the battle, bang, boom, bam, with attacks flying, more and more bandits with lower stages continued to fall. They couldn't block Gray's attacks, and what they all found terrifying was that Gray's wide-range attacks tend to be very powerful. Bang! An attack slammed into the body of the centipede, increasing the wounds it had gotten from the battle. It screeched in pain before brutally biting off the head of one of the bandits. Swoosh! Boom! Bang! The bandits quickly figured out something. Since they couldn't get Gray, then they would kill the centipede first. In a matter of seconds, the injuries on the body of the centipede increased exponentially, until it didn't have any strength left to even stay upright. Gray soon jumped from the head of the centipede, landing directly into the crowd of people. Bang! Bam! The sound of flesh hitting flesh reverberated across quickly as Gray started to punch his way through, literally. Given the space between them, the bandits couldn't attack wildly, and their physical body wasn't on the same level as Gray's. He made sure to always be in the most congested area, making it hard for the bandits to attack him. Damn it. Spread out, don't stand in groups. One of the two men at the peak of the Overlord plane yelled out an order. They all could see what Gray was doing, but they couldn't stop him. When the battle started, they all felt that their numbers gave them the advantage. But now, the reverse is the case. This large number of theirs is making it difficult for them to attack a single person. There's still the fact that this person was still in the origin plane. This was what frustrated and annoyed the bandits even more. How could an origin plane elementalist confidently dare to jump into the midst of over 100 Overlord plane elementalists and still be on the front foot? It was preposterous. Bang, thud, bam, boom. Bodies continued flying around, hitting each other before the bandits followed the order of the man at the peak of the Overlord plane. They quickly spread out, moving in different directions. As they started to spread out, the man at the peak of the Overlord plane charged at Gray, attacking him with wind blades. The man's eyes nearly bulged out when he saw the person in front of him wasn't Gray, but the other peak Overlord plane elementalist. How? He asked in shock. The unsuspecting man was sent flying by the attack of his comrade, sustaining terrible injuries from the attack even before he landed. A large gash was on his chest that was at least 3 inches deep, and blood was constantly pouring out. Bang! His body crashed heavily on the ground. But that wasn't the thing everyone looked at. They all stared at the figure who suddenly appeared beside the man from out of nowhere. Gray didn't waste any time as he attacked with the earth element, smashing it fiercely into the man's chest, further worsening the injury. The man was left defenseless by the sudden attack. Now coupled with Gray's attack, it was easy to tell that his chances of survival were slim. Before anyone could react, Gray continued attacking, while using other elements as well. He sent the darkness element into the injury, making sure it would cause more damage to the man's body. As soon as the darkness element started ravaging through the man's body, he screamed in pain, wriggling around while scratching his chest with his fingers. It was as if something was eating him from the inside, and he wanted to tear it out of him. His painful shrieks sent chills down the spines of all the people there, even the man at the peak of the Overlord plane. He couldn't help but look at the youth who did this again. What he still couldn't wrap his head around was how the hell was Gray in the Origin plane. With the strength he was displaying, he didn't dare to believe he was in the Origin plane. He's not in the Origin plane. Quick, surround him before he escapes, the man said. He was the only peak Overlord plane elementalist left on this side of the battlefield. Chapter 553. The bandits rushed to encircle Gray, making sure they didn't get close enough for him to attack them with his insane physical strength. After surrounding him, they didn't hold back and attacked together. What happened next left them all in shock. Gray also used his inscriptions to attack his position, then he waited for a few seconds. Just when the attacks were about to get to him, he vanished, and the last peak Overlord plane elementalist in this side of the battlefield appeared in the center of all the attacks. Boom, bam, bang. The attacks rang out as they connected with the man. Unlike the first person Gray used this skill against, he was vigilant, so as soon as he noticed the sudden change in his surroundings, he set up a wind screen around him. Alas, it wasn't enough to protect him from the multiple attacks. Crack, bang. The screen cracked, before exploding under the impact of another attack. The attacks continued to rain down, slamming into the defenseless man who screamed in horror. While this was taking place, Gray had started killing those close to the man he switched places with. They never expected someone so close to suddenly attack, so he was able to kill 3 people instantaneously, with 2 in the mid-stages of the Overlord plane, while the last was in the early stages. The others around soon realized what was happening and started to attack Gray, forcing him back. Gray vanished from that spot, switching position with someone who was in the midst of at least 10 early stages, Overlord plane elementalist. When he appeared, he exploded out with blue flames, mixed with red lightning. Boom. It was like he was a bomb, covering a range of over 100 meters. The blast didn't only affect those close to him, it almost destroyed the place, causing the walls to crack, and rocks soon started to fall from above. The place would collapse at the rate the battle was going. Swoosh, boom, bang. The battle continued fiercely, with Gray moving around like a fish in water. Regrettably, he couldn't dodge all the attacks of the bandits. After all, they were just too many for a single individual. On Ellis's end, with Void's involvement, things started to take a turn once again. In the space of 5 minutes, he had killed 2 of the people there. The leader of the bandits couldn't believe what was happening. This wasn't the first time they were attacked, but their numbers have always seemed to be able to pull them through. In this case, a single individual in a lower plane is actually stopping an army of over 200 from moving. What could be more annoying than that, he wondered. Then, from nowhere, a black cat was killing his men who came to aid him. A fucking black cat. When he first saw Void, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. Only after Void killed the next person did he realize it was really happening. A Sage plane kid, a Peak Origin plane kid, and a fucking cat. Great. Just great, he lamented while seeking an opportunity to kill Void. Compared to Ellis, he felt Void was more of a threat. Swoosh, boom. He moved quickly, trying to figure out where Void was going to appear next, while also attacking Ellis, who was dealing with the 2 Peak Overlord plane, and the other late-stage bandits in front of him. The bandit leader ensured that he didn't get the chance to kill any of them. Ellis couldn't help but thank the stars that he met up with Gray before he got here, else given the synergy of the bandits, he wouldn't have been able to kill them. Looking at Gray's side, he was stunned by the greatness of Gray's battle prowess. He could clearly see that Gray was at a disadvantage due to not only numbers but cultivation level disadvantage. Yet, he was sensibly avoiding those at the late stage of the Overlord plane, while picking out all the weaker ones. He would occasionally kill one late-stage Overlord plane bandit whenever the opportunity presented itself. Ellis didn't watch long since he also had people to deal with. Void was trying his best to distract them, while also making sure he didn't get caught by the sneaky bandit leader. Boom, bang. Just when he appeared to attack someone, the bandit leader who had already predicted his next appearance attacked with his full strength. Void didn't see the attack on time because he was just leaving a space tunnel. Before he could disappear, the attack appeared in front of his eyes. Bam! An ice wall rose in front of him, blocking the attack. Void didn't even think twice. He attacked the person who made him appear here before disappearing once again. Ellis had been studying the bandit leader, so when he saw him attack, he knew he had to help. The battle erupted on both sides, and the cracks on the walls continued spreading, getting wider and wider as larger rocks started to fall from above. As time went on, light started to pass through one of the holes into the dimly lit cave. The battle still hadn't stopped. Gray and Ellis were already injured, with blood covering their bodies. However, they had done significant damage to the bandit group as the body count had gone over 100. Gray was a beast, and Ellis was left short of words concerning his performance. He wasn't the only one who regarded Gray as a beast. The surviving bandits all see him as a beast, even worse than one. Even though they could see that he was injured from their attacks, they didn't feel any sense of pride in it. Too many of them had fallen to the hands of this youth who is still in the origin plane. Crash. Boom. After almost 30 minutes of battle, the place soon gave in, and the top of the place came crumbling down. Gray and Void were the first to escape, followed by Ellis and the bandit leader. The others rushed as well, with a few unfortunate ones being trapped inside, crushed by the large rocks. Chapter 554. Boom. A huge dust cloud rose into the sky from the place where the bandits' hideout caved in. Gray and Void were already at a safe location, and seeing the men rushing out of the place, they exchanged looks before attacking them viciously. Swoosh, bam, bang, boom. The men who were dashing out of the place found it difficult to block the sudden attacks of Void and Gray. Gray used one of his most powerful wide-range attacks, Meteor Descent, while Void was changing between the lightning, fire, and darkness element. In a matter of seconds, the duo had killed no less than 10 people. After their first flurry of attacks, the other bandits were already aware of their attacks, and managed to block them, although not all of them were able to successfully do so, thanks to the cooperation of Gray and Void. By the time the surviving bandits appeared outside, none of the Peak Overlord Plane bandits were left alive. The remaining two, who were on Ellis's side of the battle, had managed to survive under Void's attacks until now, but they met their unfortunate end thanks to the duo's viciousness. When Ellis saw what they were doing, he couldn't help but shake his head in amazement. They truly are fit to travel together, truly vicious, he thought while staring at the bandit leader with regret. Had he known, he would have attacked him when he was escaping as well. This would have made killing him easier. How can you be so shameless? The bandit leader yelled in dejection when he saw what Gray and Void did. He wasn't expecting anyone to make any moves until everyone came out of the collapsing hideout. Who would have thought that Gray and Void were so vicious? It was one thing for an animal to be this vicious, but for a human as well. That was something people rarely see. We're not friends, why would I wait until they come out? I saw my chance, of course I'll take it. Gray replied coldly. Gray disappeared after he finished his words, attacking the unsuspecting bandits who were watching the exchange between him and their leader. Boom. By the time they realized what was happening, one of their comrades had been sent flying, blood spilling from his mouth. Even before the body touched the ground, he was already dead. Kill him! Kill him! The bandit leader yelled in frustration and rushed towards Gray. Bang! An attack exploded in front of him, pushing him back. I'm your opponent, don't worry, you'll join your underlings soon enough, Ellis said with a smirk before attacking once again. With the bandit leader's state of mind in disarray, it would be easier to kill him now. The bandit leader attacked frivolously. However, Ellis had no problems with dealing with a distracted and frustrated opponent. Swoosh, boom, bam. They continued fighting wildly in the sky, with attacks covering some parts of it. Gray and Void were also fighting valiantly on the ground, although pressured by the number of their enemies. They continued fighting. The duo was built differently when it came to fighting against crowds. It was like the number doesn't even affect them at all. A group of almost 200 bandits when the battle started had reduced to just over 80 plus people. This showed how clinical the duo was. One has to take note that Ellis hadn't been given the freedom to attack anyone other than the bandit leader, so the killing of over 50% of their opponents was solely done by Gray and Void, and the centipede as well. It did take out a few people before its quick death. The huge canyon walls on the side were destroyed from the battle. Some of the bandits were already making their escape when they saw that victory didn't seem to favor them today, especially after seeing their leader sent flying more than once. Ellis already had the upper hand when the battle started, so he used that momentum as well as Gray's present dismantling of the bandits, which seems to have destabilized the bandit leader. Boom, bang. Half an hour more went by, and the fighting in the canyon had stopped. 3 figures were standing on top of one side of the wall, which had been slightly destroyed, staring at the havoc that was on the ground. Multiple corpses were on the ground which had large crevices from the powerful attacks. Void was perched on Gray's shoulder like usual, while Ellis looked around with a solemn look. By his side was a man who looked half beaten to death. It was none other than the bandits' leader, but he was almost unrecognizable. Sigh.how did you two do it? Ellis sighed before turning to Gray and Void. He just couldn't believe that 2 fighters could cause this much chaos on a battlefield. If the duo were thrown into a real battlefield, they are bound to be hated by their opponents. A mission that seemed like a death sentence was cleared just like. Gray and Void looked at the ground before replying simultaneously. Pressure. Loot. Although the duo spoke at the same time, Ellis had no issues differentiating what Gray said and what Void said. I tend to thrive under pressure, Gray added. I'm motivated by loot. Void didn't want to be left out, so he explained as well. Gray rolled his eyes when he heard Void's words. He sat down on the ground, winded from the battle. He couldn't deny it, he truly outdid himself this time. I think I'll need to rest for a while before we can continue, he said to Ellis. Yeah, me too, I'm feeling sleepy already, Void said. It's okay, you two can rest up, I'll keep guard. Also, thank you for your help. Ellis thanked the duo. If not for them, he wasn't even 15% sure he would make it back alive. Gray nodded before closing his eyes, entering a meditation state, while Void appeared on his crossed legs and started to sleep. What do you want with me? The bandits' leader asked Ellis after the duo were out. Chapter 555. To complete my mission, Ellis replied before knocking out the bandits' leader. After knocking him out, he removed the spatial ring on his finger. Sigh. This collapse has made us lose a lot of things. He sighed while looking at where the hideout was previously located. Thanks to the collapse, there was no way to get in, unless he wanted to destroy the place even more. He waved his hand and tentacles made of water sprouted out from the ground just in front of him. The tentacles stretched into the battlefield, removing the rings on the corpses of the dead bandits. Although Ellis helped the duo after defeating the bandit leader, he still found their strength astonishing. Later that day, Gray and Void were back to normal. Seeing that they were awake, Ellis handed all the spatial rings to them. What's this? Gray asked with a confused expression. The loot. This is all the rings I could salvage, Ellis replied. He separated one of the rings. This is the one the leader wore, so it should have more items in it. Void was about to rush the rings when Gray stopped him. We did this together. There's no way we would take all the loot. That's nice of you, but I don't need it. You two can share them, Ellis said, refusing Gray's offer. Destroy them then. Since you don't want a share of them, then there's no use in keeping it, Gray said resolutely. Even though he was slightly interested in the loot since he was already almost out of essence stones, he wouldn't take all the rewards when Ellis also helped in the battle. Fine, sheesh. We'll share them. Ellis gave up before taking the rings. The best way to share them is by taking out all the items from each storage ring and evaluating their value. Gray was short on stones, so he needed more of that. Void, well, all he wanted were shiny things. Ellis wasn't interested in the loot, so he wasn't really expecting to take anything of importance from them. He planned to take the less useful things and give rest to the duo. There was a total of 23 rings, and other than the one owned by the bandits' leader, the rest didn't have any owners, so it could be easily accessed by anyone. Ellis brought out all the items from those rings, and there were multiple elemental weapons, techniques, a few books about arrays, thousands of essence stones, some herbs, fruits, and plants. There was even a book on forge mastering. Ellis, recalling Gray's love for arrays, handed him the book about arrays and forge mastering. Void, as he wanted, got first picks on the shiny things. He picked up a shiny bright pole, which seemed to be able to light up even the darkest nights. Ellis randomly picked up an elemental sword, keeping it in his spatial ring. They continued sharing the loot, with Gray going for the essence stones, right after getting the array and forge mastering books. Void, like before, went for shiny things, but this time, it was an elemental weapon that was in the shape of a star. They continued in this fashion until they picked up all the items from the storage ring. Now, it was time to take out the items that were in the spatial ring of the bandits' leader. Gray and Void looked on expectantly, being someone who had robbed a lot of people. The bandits' leader is bound to have great items stored in his storage ring. Come on, open it, Void urged. It'll take some time since the owner is still alive. It will take some time to alter it, Ellis explained while closing his eyes, sending his spiritual senses into the ring. He used his spiritual sense to locate where the bandits' leader's consciousness was on the ring, before forcibly destroying it. Thud, splat. The bandits' leader fell on his knees, before spitting out a mouthful of blood, as his face turned paler than it previously was. Why didn't you just tell me to remove it myself? He yelled in pain while clutching his aching head. If I did that, we wouldn't be able to see you in this state, now would we? Ellis asked with a smirk. The bandits' leader gritted his teeth angrily, with veins popping up on the side of his head. If looks could kill, then Ellis and the duo would have been dead already. You're crazy, all of you. You'll die young. The bandits' leader continued swearing at the trio. Gray couldn't help but wish Klaus were here. With Klaus's vile tongue, he might curse this man to the stage of wanting to commit suicide, especially since he couldn't move. Ellis and Gray didn't bother to reply to him, as they stared at the items they brought out from the ring. Ellis couldn't deny it. He was a little tempted by the things he was seeing. The things they were all seeing were worth a fortune. Ellis's eyes were spread wide open because he couldn't believe how wealthy the bandits' leader was. Who did you rob? He turned to ask in shock. Even for someone in a big family like his, he still found it difficult not to feel shocked by the items he was seeing. Go FK yourself. The bandits' leader spat on the ground in disgust. Fine, since you're not saying, Void. Ellis sneered while stepping back. On hearing his name, Void knew it was his time to shine. Hehe, prepare yourself for a world of pain. He laughed evilly while walking towards the man and swinging his tail from side to side. Gray shook his head as he saw Void's reaction. He just loves torturing people, he thought wryly. The bandits' leader's screams soon started to echo in the silent Cyan canyons. Gray and Ellis were watching as Void tortured him. It didn't take long for him to crack before spilling out everything. A special carriage? Ellis asked. Yes, it had an insignia in the shape of a dragon. The bandit leader nodded obediently. Crap. When did you rob them? Ellis asked, evidently worried. A few days back, the bandit's leader replied. We're leaving, now. Oh, Ellis roared while picking up the bandit's leader and running. Chapter 556. Oh, Gray, destroy the corpses. Ellis's voice came from afar. Gray sent out a wide-range fire attack that quickly burned the corpses to ashes, before running after Ellis. He didn't know why Ellis reacted the way he did, but he was certain that this family with the dragon insignia wasn't anything good. The next morning, a group of over 30 people arrived, 2 old men with white and black hair respectively, a few middle-aged men and some young men and girls in their teens. Looking at the destruction in the area, they knew a battle occurred not too long ago, and seeing how there was no one here, the bandits were most likely wiped out. Do you know who might have done this? The old man with black hair asked. No, but I believe if the bandits were wiped out, we'll hear of it soon enough. A middle-aged man replied. Okay, send scouts to the towns, villages, and cities nearby. We must get back that vial of blood, the old man said with clenched fists before disappearing. The other one with white hair disappeared as well. How could you be so careless? Didn't you tell them the name of our family? The middle-aged man turned to one of the young men in the group. It was a boy who looked to be around 15 to 17 years old. He had the same features as the middle-aged man who was scolding him, only younger looking. I told them, Father, but they threatened to kill us, while also saying that we were lying. The young man said apologetically. Whoever defeated them shouldn't be too far away. If my guess is correct, this battle took place at least 2 days ago. Spread out, we must recover the item. The middle-aged man said, turning to look at everyone present. Yes, my lord. Everyone answered in unison before going in different directions, leaving only 5 people left in the canyon. The middle-aged man, 2 middle-aged ladies, the young man who was his son, and another youth who was older than the young man. We should search this place, maybe they might mistake it for something meaningless and leave it in their hideout, the middle-aged man said. With a snap of his hand, all the destroyed rocks flew into the air, floating in the sky as if held by a powerful force. The group walked into the destroyed hideout, combing through every part of it. While all these were happening, Ellis and Gray were already at the gate of the monster city. Finally, we're back. Ellis breathed out a sigh of relief when he saw the gates of the city. Can you try to at least tell me why we're running? Gray asked. They've been running since the previous night. Well, he was the one who did the running. Ellis could fly, so he wasn't too bothered. Oh right, the Vagel family. They believe they're a family related to dragons. Weird, right? Ellis explained as they walked into the city. Ellis was from a well-known family, and being someone who is regarded as one of the most talented individuals to ever grace the city, he had quite a high status here even amongst his peers. The guards at the city gates welcomed him with smiles, while occasionally waving at him. They didn't even ask who the man on his shoulder was. It was none of their business. Gray continued to listen to Ellis's explanation about the Vagel family. According to him, the family was said to have come after a human and a dragon that was able to turn human got together. The child they gave birth to was said to be the greatest genius of his time. But the dragons didn't want their bloodline to be contaminated by humans, so they forcibly took the child, but the parents managed to escape later on and start up a family once again. But the purity of the second child's bloodline wasn't as strong as the first, and since they were in hiding, the dragons were unable to locate them. They managed to grow to a powerful extent before finally coming out after hundreds of years in hiding. It didn't take long before they laid a stronghold for themselves. Some people didn't believe the story, but because they didn't want to make the mistake of offending people related to dragons, they let them be. One thing was also certain though, they were powerful in their own rights as well. And even the biggest families in the continent wouldn't want to go head-to-head against them. When Ellis made mention of the Vagel family name, the bandit leader who he was carrying on his shoulder started to shake uncontrollably from fear. He knew this name, but when the youths told him about it, he thought they were only using it as a means of protection, and didn't think much of it. Only now did he understand the severity of his crimes. Now, he was actually grateful that Ellis and Gray defeated them. If not, he would have seen far worse things at the hands of the Vagel family. Well, it has nothing to do with us. It's not like we were the ones who robbed them, Gray said. Although the story was quite intriguing, he didn't want to think much about it for now. The main thing is to get to the O'Brien family compound and see if he could help out Ellis' father. As long as we're in my family compound, they can't do anything to us. Ellis led the group further into the city. They headed towards the eastern part of the city. Given the size of the city, it took them almost 1 hour before they got to their destination. It was a luxurious-looking mansion that gave off an ancient aura. This goes to show just how old the building was. This was the O'Brien family, one of the oldest and most powerful families in Monster City and the entire southern continent. Chapter 557. Welcome back, young lord. The guards at the mansion's gate bowed respectfully when they saw Ellis. Ellis smiled at them before walking in with Gray and Void. The bandits' leader was still on his shoulder. After they went in, the guards looked at each other before sighing in pity. Everyone in the city knew what was going on in the O'Brien family. The guards in particular are aware of the hard tasks the elders are sending Ellis out to accomplish. Every time they see him head out, they would always pray for his safe return, and it looks like their prayer worked once again. Gray walked into the compound, staring around curiously. Void was the same, only, the moment he sensed some terrifying auras, he hid his aura, making it seem as if he was a regular cat. The people he sensed were people who could kill him with a sneeze. He was certain that even with his elemental mastery of the space element, he still wouldn't be able to escape before he died. Gray, be careful here. There are powerful people here, Void warned. I know, this is one of the most powerful families in the entire southern continent, and in the Aurora continent as well. You don't expect them to be weak, do you? Gray already knew what he was getting himself into. His only worry is how Ellis would be able to sneak him into his father's room without being noticed by the people around. From what is happening with Ellis in the family, it is easy to tell that he wasn't welcomed by the elders, since they're trying so hard to kill him. They didn't get too far before a young man around the same age as Ellis walked out from the west wing of the mansion. When he saw Ellis, a look of surprise appeared on his face momentarily, before quickly changing to a smile. "You're back? I knew you would make it back." The young man flashed a bright smile before walking towards Ellis. "I survived by fluke," Ellis said, putting on a fake smile. "It doesn't matter, the important thing is that you're back. Father would be proud," the young man said while approaching Ellis. "Yeah, I bet he will," Ellis said sarcastically. "Come on, don't be like that. You know Father is only doing this to test your strength. You were gone for so long that everyone thought you were dead. Even the family head as well." The young man smiled before staring at Gray and the bandits leader curiously. "I suppose this is the bandit leader, but who is he?" he asked while pointing at Gray. "A friend," Ellis said before he continued moving. "Oh, it's nice to meet you. I'm Keel, Ellis' cousin." Keel stretched out his hands. "Gray." Gray shook his hand before following Ellis's lead. "Where's Uncle?" Ellis stopped to ask. "Father's in the hall. He's discussing some matters with the elders and some guests," Keel replied. Ellis continued moving once again. Gray already sensed the hostility between the two, so he didn't even bother to ask. All that was important to him in the O'Brien family was Ellis, his friend, nothing else. They walked into the main building. After going through the hallway, they stopped in front of a huge door. "Wait here," Ellis said to Gray before pushing the door open and walking in. After getting in, his facial expression changed when he saw the sitting position of the people gathered here. There were around 15 people here, 3 of them were not from his family, but he was familiar with them, while the other 12 were from his family. What he found annoying was that a certain middle-aged man was seated on the middle seat, which was reserved for only the family head. "Uncle, my father is still alive," Ellis said coldly, trying to rein in his anger. "Boy, speak with respect when talking to me. I'm the acting family head since that terrible illness happened to your father. I have every right to sit here," the middle-aged man said coolly. He didn't raise his voice or scold Ellis, even though Ellis sort of provoked him. "I can see that you're back from your mission. Good. If you want to take over from your father someday, then you have to be the very best of your generation," the middle-aged man said. Everyone in the hall kept quiet, looking at Ellis and his uncle. HMPH. Ellis snorted coldly but didn't say a word. "Here's the bandits leader who terrorized travelers in the Cyan Canyon." He dropped the man on his shoulder. "I'm amazed by your strength since you were able to single-handedly deal with this powerful group. Tell me, how did you do it?" the middle-aged man asked. "I was lucky," Ellis replied, not willing to speak any further. And who's the young man standing outside?" The middle-aged man let the matter slide before asking about Gray, who was standing outside. "A friend," Ellis replied. "And why would you bring a friend of yours into the mansion when you know how things are?" The middle-aged man squinted his eyes. "It's none of your business." Ellis turned around and left decisively. Youths so feisty." The middle-aged man laughed softly with a cold light flashing through his eyes. He turned to the people in the hall. "All right, where were we? What do you plan to do with me?" The bandits leader suddenly spoke up. Swoosh. Thud. Continue. The middle-aged man didn't even look at the bandits leader. On the head of the bandits leader was a hole the size of a finger. He was dead. The people in the hall didn't take him for much and continued their conversation. A guard was summoned to dispose of the body. After Ellis came out of the hall, he took Gray towards the right wing of the mansion. "My father is kept in the main building, but my uncle ensured that the security around is very tight. It will be almost impossible to sneak you in, and the use of the space element would be difficult, since there's a powerful space elementalist in the building, my third uncle." Ellis explained the situation of the mansion to Gray. Gray nodded attentively while taking a good note of everywhere in the mansion. Chapter 558. "So, how do we get in?" Gray asked after they walked into Ellis's room. "We'll walk there. I'll try to distract the guards there." "It shouldn't be too difficult," Ellis replied. He added after a while, "The only problem now is getting my father to trust you, since he doesn't know you, and I can't go in with you." "Well, not immediately though." Okay, but can't you see him whenever you want?" Gray asked. He found all these strange. "My uncle doesn't allow it. He uses the excuse of my father needing rest to stop me from going." Ellis gritted his teeth angrily. Gray shook his head when he heard this. I've always hated big families. They always fight against each other for control over the family, he thought. For some reason, he felt grateful that he wasn't from such a big family. He didn't even know anyone else other than his parents. Okay, so when are we going? He asked. We should wait for a while. I believe my uncle will be leaving the mansion soon to attend to some things. Since those three are here, then there's a chance that he would leave. Ellis replied. Gray nodded and didn't say anything more. Since there was nothing to do for now, he decided to study the items they got from the bandit leader's storage ring. It was worth mentioning that there were some good books on arrays, and he still hasn't been able to remove the mark the Necromancer placed on him. Luckily, he hadn't encountered any other necromancers since the last one he met at the ruin. While he was going through the book on arrays, the O'Brien family had made the announcement of Ellis successfully eliminating the bandits of the Cyan Canyon. These bandits were pretty famous, and given how they've terrorized the people who travel through that road, especially merchants, they couldn't help but be excited and feel grateful towards the O'Brien family. This was all the doing of Ellis's uncle, according to his words. It would make more people trust them, thereby giving them more power in the region. Ellis wasn't aware of all this, as he too was going through the items he collected from the bandit leader's ring. There were some things he was interested in, and Gray willingly gave them to him. Void was mostly interested in shiny things, and one small rock in particular. He even wanted to trade all the items he got for that rock. Gray and Ellis tried to study the rock, but they noticed there was nothing abnormal about it. But Gray knew otherwise. Void wouldn't be so worked up over something normal. For someone who has a high taste in things, with the exception of shiny things, it was strange to see him wanting an ordinary rock so badly. Ellis's room. Oh Void, what's in that rock that you wanted so badly? Gray suddenly recalled it while in the middle of his study and asked. Heh, blood. Void laughed sinisterly as he replied. Hey, blood. What the hell do you need blood for? And whose blood is in it? Gray's head went blank for a moment, as he never expected an answer like this. A dragon's blood. I shouldn't be mistaken, this is 100% a dragon's blood, and here it is, in my hands. Heh. Void laughed as he showed off the rock to Gray. Knowing what was inside, Gray was astonished. He couldn't help but recall a certain ice dragon he encountered in the Trial Land. What do you plan to do with it? He asked. Refine it, of course. It'll help enhance my abilities greatly. Although a dragon's bloodline is nowhere near mine, I will manage it, Void said proudly. Gray chuckled when he heard this. He still didn't know what Void truly was. He had never heard of a cat hatching from an egg before, but he saw it with his eyes, so he couldn't deny it. It was also common knowledge that dragons were at the top of the magical beasts world, but Void said he was just as powerful as dragons. Are you sure it's safe for you to use? He asked worriedly. Of course. I can also lend you some as well. Dragons have one of the strongest bodies and bones in the world. If you can refine even a tiny bit of their blood, then your physical strength will improve tremendously, Void said. He knew Gray's physical strength was not like other elementalists. He was far stronger than them when it came to this, almost on the same level as magical beasts. Really? Isn't this going to be harmful to me? Gray asked. If what Void said was true, then he wouldn't even think twice before using it. Would I give you anything that would harm you? Void rolled his eyes before keeping the rock. Gray shook his head. Since that's the case, fine. We can't use it here. Once I remove the seal from this rock, then everyone around will sense it. We'll have to wait until we get to somewhere safe, alone, Void explained. Gray thought about it for a while before nodding. He wasn't in a hurry anyway. He checked his ring, seeing all the essence stones inside. He thought of how he was going to be able to go back to the Azure continent. Hey, how did you go to the Azure continent? He turned to Ellis. It was accidentally, so I can't really be sure if you can use it as well, but I can take you to the teleportation array I used. Ellis replied. Alright, once we're done here, you'll take me there. I need to go back to the Azure continent, Gray said. Some kilometers away from Mortar City, outside a small town, a group could be seen walking out of the town. It was the same group who went to the Cyan Canyon after Gray and Ellis left. A figure suddenly appeared before them. My lord, there's news about who wiped out the bandits. The person bowed before speaking. Where? The old man asked. Mortar City. A young genius from the O'Brien family, The person replied, "Fine, it's been a while since we visited our friends in Mortar City. Let's go." Chapter 559, Mortar City. Later that day, Gray was still going through the book on arrays when Ellis suddenly approached him. "Come on, let's go," Ellis said. Gray raised his head to stare at the figure of Ellis. He could sense anxiety in his friend's demeanor. "I'm not fully certain that it will work, so don't get your hopes up yet. I know, but no one has said they could help with this, so even if you're not successful with what you want to try, I won't blame you." Ellis nodded. "It's good you understand," Gray said before following Ellis out of the room. On their way out, Ellis started to tell him about his family and the problem with his uncle. Ellis's uncle was out of the mansion, just as he predicted, and this was the best time he had to take Gray over to his father. Even though his father and uncle are brothers, because of who would lead the family, they started to drift apart. The drift became more apparent when Ellis was born. He was on a whole new level when compared to his uncle's son who was a year older. Even as a child, everyone could tell that he would be more talented than his brother. The only consolation he got was Ellis' somewhat feminine voice, but it didn't change anything. In the end, it was just as everyone predicted. Ellis was well ahead of his cousin in terms of strength and talent. Ellis had an elder brother and sister, but they were both killed when they went out for a mission a few years after he was born. It was a strange event in the family, but at that time, they were dealing with an enemy, and they knew the chances of them being killed by the said enemy was very high. The O'Brien family isn't the most loved family across the Aurora continent. It was evident from how Ellis told Gray not to ask of them in other continents apart from the southern. According to Ellis, one of his family's ancestors made a mistake during the Great War of the Gods, causing heavy casualties to the other families. Even though he rectified it at the cost of his own life, it still wasn't enough to dispel the hatred and doubt that grew in the minds of the other families. Some of the families thought it was a plot to weaken their strength. Even to this day they still speak ill of the O'Brien family. The southern continent is the home of the O'Brien family, but if they go out of the continent, they're mindful of their actions, since they weren't really on the good side of the other families. Gray was both shocked and astounded by what he was hearing. It was only after hearing this did he realize why Ellis told him not to speak of the O'Brien family outside of the southern continent. If he had made the mistake, then he might have been attacked by some people who still held a grudge against them. They continued speaking as Ellis took him through the long hallway, going through a series of doors before getting to a larger hallway. Wait, Ellis stopped, peeping ahead of them to see what was ahead of them. Gray could hear at least 3 voices, but he was still behind, so he didn't know which people were there, nor if they had gotten to where they were going. "All right, I'll try to see if I can distract the guards. I'll take them to the next hallway, but you will only have a time frame of a few seconds or a minute at least to enter the room," Ellis said. Gray nodded, before preparing himself for his task. "Oh, before I forget, there's an array that would notify the elders once someone new enters the room. It's made to sense the essence of the person going in, so you can't escape it," Ellis added. Gray paused, staring at Ellis with a long face. "What? I forgot about it since I'm part of the family." "You're lucky I remembered now. What if you went in without knowing this?" Ellis raised a brow. Gray shook his head before dragging Ellis back and taking his position. "I'll try to study the array from here and see how I can maneuver through it," Gray said. "Okay, but try to be fast. Time's not something we have right now." Ellis looked behind them warily. Gray gently sent out his spiritual senses, slowly taking it over to where the room was located. He made sure to avoid the guards who were standing at the front of the door. If his spiritual sense was to touch them, they would definitely sense it, given their strength. As soon as his spiritual senses got close to the room, he started to feel the array in the room. The array almost gave off the alarm. Luckily, he called back his spiritual senses quickly. I'll still need to probe it a few more times before trying to block it," Gray thought, while running multiple simulations of arrays in his head, before he tried to probe the array once again. Just like the first time, the array almost gave off the alarm, but he quickly called back his spiritual senses. After a minute plus of probing repeatedly, Gray managed to think of a way to slightly escape the array, but only after trying will he know if it would work. "Aren't you ready yet?" Ellis asked while looking around. "I'm not too confident about it. Although I don't like doing things I'm not certain of, we have no choice." "Come on, let's go," Gray said. Ellis nodded before jokingly saying, "Even if you were caught, I'll come out to take the blame. At most my uncle will kick me out of the family. He has been searching for an opportunity since I returned. Let's hope it doesn't get to that stage," Gray said before taking in a deep breath. Seeing that Gray was ready, Ellis walked out, heading towards the 3 guards at the door. "3 of you, come with me. I noticed something a few rooms away," Ellis ordered. "I'm sorry, young lord, but we can't leave our position. You can call the other guards," one of the guards said. "I wonder what my uncle will say when he finds out that because of you 3, a thief infiltrated the mansion." Ellis sneered before turning around decisively. Now, it was time to see if his plan will work or not. Chapter 560. The guards exchanged glances. After thinking about it properly, they knew they couldn't afford to leave the matter as it is. "You 2, go with the young lord, I'll stay behind," one of the guards said. Since they were 3, it wasn't really necessary for all 3 of them to leave the place. 2 should be enough. "I said all 3 of you. Are you defying my orders now, just because my father is ill?" Ellis asked coldly while giving off a chill aura. Chilled smoke started to circulate across the hallway, spreading around. Gray and Void, who were at the side, felt as if they wanted to freeze to death. The guards gritted their teeth. With no other option, they agreed to follow Ellis. Since Ellis said the place wasn't far from here, they could come back quickly in case of anything. Then there's also the array that was set by one of the oldest elders in the family. He was an array master, so it was almost impossible for anyone to go through it without alarming him. Most people won't even sense the presence of an array in the room until it's too late. Ellis took the guards to the other side of the hallway, disappearing in the corner. Gray and Void, who were hiding, came out from their spot, walking towards the room cautiously. "Can you hide from it?" Gray asked. "No, the sensing system of this one is different from the one in that city, so there's no way I can," Void replied. All right. Guess I'll have to take the risk then." Gray steeled his mind, praying for the best while preparing for the worst. If things don't go as planned, he will hastily move towards Ellis' father and try to see if he could help him, before he would be captured by the people in the mansion. He held the doorknob while preparing an array that he would use to slightly alter the array in the room. His plan wasn't to disable the array, but to create a loophole in it, so he can easily access it without being sensed. If it works, then he can stay here for as long as he wants, and no one will know he was there. Creak. He opened the door slowly, and soon as a small space opened up, he sent the array he created into the room, hoping it might be able to work. With fingers crossed and a calm expression, he waited for the outcome of his experiment. He raised his head slightly as a smile appeared on his face. He soon opened the door to the room and disappeared into it. Ellis and the guards came back the same moment he just closed the door, but no one noticed this. "Looks like I made a mistake." Ellis shook his head. The guards smiled awkwardly but didn't speak any further, opting to stay in their positions. Ellis didn't stay any longer. He walked towards the spot Gray and Void were hiding. Seeing the place empty, he heaved a sigh of relief. He muttered some words as he walked towards his room. Now, all he had to do was wait for Gray. He felt leaving the room should be easier than going in, but just to be on the safe side, Gray gave him one of the communication devices he made, so they could communicate without speaking out, unlike the ones they have here. Outside the O'Brien mansion, at the time Gray was stepping into Ellis's father's room, an uninvited guest appeared in front of the compound's gate. With the dragon insignia boldly crested on their clothes, it was easy for the guards to identify the group. It was the Vagel family. The facial expressions of the guards changed slightly. "Is Thoma in?" the old man with white hair asked. The guards nodded. They could feel an oppressive aura radiating from the old man, not just him, but every other person standing here. It was just like the oppressive aura high-ranked magical beasts give off. It was suffocating. "Your young lord defeated the bandits in Cyan Canyon, correct?" The old man raised a brow. "Yes." One of the guards nodded. "All right, tell him and Thoma to come out. We have things to discuss." The old man said, "Sir, you see the family. Whatever you want to discuss with my brother, you can speak with me." A voice suddenly resounded, not too loud, but everyone heard it perfectly. A figure soon appeared close to the Vagel family group. It was Ellis's uncle. He was back. "Claude, it's been a while," the old man said. "I can say the same for you, old man. Who would have thought that you were still alive?" Claude laughed as he spoke. You're still alive, why would you think I'll be dead? The old man sneered. From their exchange, it was evident that they've encountered each other in the past. Where are my manners? Please come inside. It's an honor to be visited by the prestigious Vagel family. Claude welcomed the group in. HMPH. Mannerless as always. A middle-aged man in the group snorted coldly, still feeling angry about a little bout. Claude asked with a smirk as he walked into the compound. You were lucky, nothing more. The middle-aged man said coldly. A win is a win, take it or leave it. Claude said with a grin as he directed the group into the main building, taking them to the hall. In the hall, everyone took their seats, and Claude, sitting in the chair designated for the family head, didn't escape the eyes of the people seated here. Now, what can my family do for you? Claude went straight to the point. Your nephew wiped out the bandits in Cyan Canyon, correct? The old man asked. Oh, you've heard of his exploits as well. How wonderful, Claude smiled. Don't tell me you're here to congratulate us for raising another prodigy. He has something that belongs to us, we want it back. The old man said. Something of yours. Claude's expression turned serious. Yes. The old man nodded. Claude looked around the hall for a while before summoning the guard outside. Tell Ellis he's needed here. This is the end of this video. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed and wish you wonderful rest of the day. The silent Ruptors out.